Well, some of us went to Origins 2026. What was seen? What was played? Is this con still worth going to? You probably already saw the show title. So why is it still worth going to?
At least we think so. Welcome to a special All Origins episode of the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast. This is episode 305, that's 305, which we're calling Great Times and Games of Origins Game Fair 2026. No, they weren't all great, but we're just going to highlight the great ones.
Tonight's going to be all about Origins. First, we're going to talk about the show in general and some of the cool stuff we did during our usual Ask the Bellhop segment. And that's going to be followed up by talking about all of the cool games we played.
Before all that, though, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Sean, your host, and on a blistering day from the refreshingly chilly Bellhop office, Deanna.
Hate all the Bellhop borders.
And, of course, Mo, the Tabletop Bellhop himself.
I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, helping you make your game nights better.
Now, we try to record every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop, and we love it when people join us in our chat room, the lobby here on Twitch.
Next up, a bit of housekeeping. First, disclosure. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, any links you see are most likely affiliate links. Whenever you use one of our affiliate links, it costs you nothing extra and does help to support the show.
So I got to say, a lot of the stuff we're talking about tonight may not be affiliate links because most of what we're talking about isn't actually coming out till Gen Con.
Sure enough.
Now, speaking of supporting the show, I'd like to point out this episode exists in part thanks to our awesome Patreon patrons. If you want to join that crew, you can do so at patreon.com/tabletopbellhop.
And last up, let's talk about show notes. If you head over to our website, we have show notes, and that's where you're going to find links to absolutely everything that we talk about in this episode. Mo spends hours making these show notes up, guys. Go use them. Take advantage of all the links we bothered to compile. Just head over to tabletopbellhop.com 300/305. That's the number 305.
The Tabletop Bellhop team is here to answer your gaming and game night questions. Tonight's question is a broad one. What did we look at Origins 2026?
Yeah, like we've been asked by everyone, how was Origins? What did you see at Origins? What was the coolest thing? We're trying to answer all those generic Origins questions all in one place. I was thinking about it. I almost wonder if next year we should do an Origins AMA instead as a different format instead of us just listing everything. But that's for next year. So the first thing I want to call out about Origins Game Fair 2026, for anyone who don't know it, it's put on by GAMA, the Tabletop Gaming Trade Association. I always forget what they call themselves now that they're not the Game Manufacturers Association. Whatever. They're the industry, trade organization for the tabletop industry. They put on this con every year. Started years ago as a wargaming con and now continues to be one of the biggest board gaming cons and role-playing in the country, though not as nearly as high up in ranking as it used to be. It's in Columbus, Ohio every year, and when it moves. It tends to be in June, but it kind of shifts weeks every now and then.
And that is the Tabletop Games Association.
That's it, Tabletop Games Association, because GAMA isn't even in their new title. One thing to note, previous times we talked about Origins, we were there as media. No, not this year. We just attended as GAMA members. Now, that be fair, we are Tabletop Media, and we are part of the media and events arm of GAMA, but we weren't hosted media. There was no obligation for us to talk about the show. We're not recording this because we owe GAMA because we got to go to Origins. This was all on us. This goes back to when we first went to GAMA in 2014 before we started this whole Tabletop Bellhop thing.
We pay to be GAMA members. GAMA members get free badges to Origins.
Yes.
And then we paid for a badge for Gwen.
And then, we bought Gwen a full badge. A full show badge.
Now, this year was a little different as there was kind of an overall theme to the show. And this was something I haven't seen in my times visiting. What was that theme?
Cyberpunk. Our Telsorian Games, Mike Pondsmith, cracked open the vault or probably, hacked some corporation to get some money and sent it to the GAMA folk because they were not only the premier sponsor, but everything was Cyberpunk. From Crit, which is their little critter, their mascot was Cyberpunk. The emails were very cheesily written data transmissions from the hackers. Those were sometimes a little painful. Cyberpunk was everywhere. Our Telsorian, you'd have to know Origins, had one of the nooks, one of the side halls that you can open up so it's part of the hallway. And that was just our Telsorian's role playing. That's it. A huge nook was our Telsorian. Monster Flight Club, they're the company to do the Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone. Had a note. And some absolutely amazing scenery set up to show off their game.
Drop into the Discord and look for the photos, guys. There's super cool pictures.
It is amazing. Night Crew Games had a dedicated space in the gaming hall showing off Cyberpunk Legends, which is a new adventure card game set in the Cyberpunk universe. Everywhere you look, there was Cyberpunk. Here, look at my badge. You can see the badge had like a Cyberpunk theme to it. Cyberpunk everywhere. Everything was Cyberpunk.
All right, now speaking of badges, you just showed your badge. I know the audio listeners can't see it, but the video listeners will note, or viewers will notice that that looks a lot different than a previous Origins badge.
So it's more narrow. It was kind of a pain to get your little ribbons to stick on there, but we did figure out this clever hack of if you did one down the side, you then made it wide enough to be able to put more on the bottom. And our kid did manage to make the typical con beard of, 87. It was her first con, so she had to collect every ribbon possible. Gosh. She had it basically down to her knees.
She got to her knees and then stopped and then spread them out and then down.
It was a shirt by the time she was done. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, and there's no names or personalization on the badges, which I didn't like much, but yeah. That is what it is. Yeah,
they made some interesting decisions. Some of it was safety based. A lot of cons are moving away from having names on badges. I'm not sure I agree with the idea, but it is what it is. The one thing I did like is they finally designed a lanyard where they don't spin around. Even like walking to the North Market in the wind, my badge would stay straight, but it didn't matter because there was nothing useful on my badge. So hey, at least they fixed one thing. I know the badges are what they were.
What about picking up badges? What was the experience like to get badges? I know we, as Gamma members, we get ours a little earlier, but what did you see from the general public?
So this was super smooth, like ridiculous. I think we're literally the first people to get a Gamma badge. So like there was no line. Like I think there was one dude standing there. They were having printer problems, but it was the first thing on the first day. And then they gave us a badge. Now the weird part is it still printed an old style badge on like what should have been a fold out card, but it was printed on a sticker. And it was the old school badge style.
With my name on it.
With our names on it and everything. And then it prints all your event tickets on stickers. And I thought the whole point of going digital would be that you didn't need those anymore.
However, I think they're still smoothing stuff out.
Yes.
So we'll see what they end up doing next year. So that was a little weird, but yeah.
Yeah, it just for what I've been told is a cost savings. It seemed weird to print all these stickers, but I think they're trying to work it out. I think the goal is supposed to be you just have this thing, and on the back you scan it to sign into events, and then if you have tickets, you get in and stuff. But it's not there yet.
Well, I think I can see problems with that because I mean, how is every DM going to have a scanner for barcodes? I can see
cell phone capture.
Maybe I don't know. To me, paper tickets seems like it's probably the better solution. Yeah. But I applaud them trying to be more environmental, and yes. I hope it works out for them.
I think the biggest thing was the surprise of this. People did not know this was coming. Mm-hmm. So next year you can come to expect it. Now another thing that was a little different this year is there were the less big name publishers. There were a lot of publishers that we are used to seeing at Origins every year, that we hang out with, that we play games with, that just weren't there. And like it was one of those where like we'd just be sitting there eating or doing something and going, wait a minute, they're not here. Oh wait, they're not here.
Did we miss them, or no? They're not here either. Okay.
And to be fair, like I didn't think Fireside Games was there, and then we found them in the back corner. So there was a bit of that too.
So to put this in context, it usually takes us 2.5 days to go through the expo hall, where we just walk up and down, and we focus primarily on board games, a little bit on RPGs, and stop and look at pretty much every game. And it takes us about 2 days, maybe a little bit more. We got through the entire expo hall in 1 day.
Yeah.
The expo hall was not any smaller. There was just less games and more t-shirts, jewelry, cool stuff, and there were games there, but it was a lot of less games. So much so that by 5:30, when the hall was open until 6, we were done. We were done before the hall even closed. And we were both like, what the heck just happened?
It was kind of shocking. The variety of stuff in the hall was a different vibe this year too. There was a lot more swag and cool geeky things. And man, if you wanted dice, I remember going to our first Origins. Like there was the ChessX booth, and then maybe Q Workshop was there, and that was about it. No, this was like the dice were like vape stores in Canada. Like everywhere you looked, you could buy dice.
The other thing that was different is everything was broken up. So there wasn't really an artist alley per se. There's like an art booth here and a t-shirt booth there. And then there's a game publisher. And it was just kind of like randomly spewed across the hall.
Yeah, it was very different the way they did the entire layout, actually. I don't know all the details, but there was something to do with the bidding process changing this year and where people got booths. And it was just,
I'm not saying if it was good or bad. It was just different.
That's exactly. It was very different than what we're used to.
Now, and along with that, I saw comments from people. Again, I wasn't there. I just followed along vicariously through your photos and Facebook. But I saw people talking about the fact that it wasn't a grid. Like it wasn't, booths are a grid.
This is the thing. They were, but they turned everything 90 degrees. So you didn't realize they were a grid. And we didn't figure it out till Sunday because they didn't change the signs. Like the signs still said aisle 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, and so on, going left to right. But the actual aisles ran this way. That just didn't make sense.
Signs
went this way. Numbers went this way. But to actually walk the aisles, the physical layout was to make it so it was 4 columns this way, which, man, Sunday was so much nicer because we literally got lost. I'm usually pretty good at navigating a con or, a trade show or something and making sure I hit everything. We were walking around Sunday going, oh my God, how did I miss this?
Well, Fireside Games was there. Yeah. We thought they weren't there. They were hidden down a little chunk that we had somehow missed. And there was 2 other things that were in that chunk that we had missed. And it was only because we went to go pick up a game from a particular person we met at the Media First Look, and we had to find their booth. And while locating their booth, we found a chunk of the expo hall we had missed.
Yeah, completely missed.
So maybe it would have taken us an entire day.
Yeah, maybe if we had actually hit everything. Yeah, it was like maybe 6. Victor was correcting me in the chat. It might have been 6 long.
It wasn't 4.
Avenues.
4 is off, but
and then the front and the back.
If you flipped the way you walked it, it was better.
It was still significantly
easy to miss
better
stuff though.
All right. Well, now we talked about some missing publishers, which has changed the look and feel of the con. But also in some of those other rooms, there are some things that people often expect going to Origins that were missing as well.
Yeah, like there was no Artemis or something I was looking forward to is 2 years ago when we went. We had walked into that room that was a Starship simulator that wasn't Artemis. I was hoping to see that. Living Dungeon was gone, and I heard a lot. True Dungeon. True Dungeon.
Yeah.
A lot of people were complaining that True Dungeon wasn't there. And from what I understand, that wasn't an Origins issue. It was a scheduling conflict with something else they were putting on.
Yeah, they apparently did a ring con that was just too close to be able to do a back-to-back show.
I'm not actually certain Artemis wasn't there. I swear I looked beforehand and I saw them in the guidebook.
Okay, I didn't see them if they were there.
Yeah.
So apologies if they were there.
But I didn't physically see them while we were at the show, but they're usually hidden down a hallway anyways.
Yeah, and one nice thing, though, I got to say about the missing publishers is there were a lot more indie publishers, but not only that, but a lot of smaller publishers with a bigger presence. Mm-hmm. And that was nice to see. Like a lot of the little guys you don't see having big booths have these bigger booths and more demo area. There was a lot less small publisher with one small table trying to show their game, and rather small publisher with 3 tables to show off their game.
Well, I did miss some of the big publishers that weren't there. What was there was very cool, and it felt like it gave more air to the other people in the room.
And like, for example, we ran into multiple Horizon Fellowship members we had met over the years at Gamma Expo, now having their games out, having significant booths, and they're well past the point of here's your free Origins booth at this point. These are people who are now like publishing their game.
All right. Well, how about the media? Like what as media members? Again, we weren't being there as hosted media, but you were our media members. What did the media get out of this?
Okay, so this was toned down from previous years. There were less media specific events. So the first day of Gamma Expo is what they call Trade Day, and there's all the stuff you get at. Or sorry, did I say Gamma Expo? First day of Origins is Trade Day, and normally there's like information panels and you sit in and all the publishers do premiere presentations to show off their new games. And it's like a smaller version of Gamma Expo. If Gamma Expo was shrunk down to one day. Well, there was no media track for that at all this year. It was completely 100% retailer focused for retailers only. And then the creative arm had done their own thing.
That's what I was gonna
but
say,
again, was for creators only. So we weren't invited to any of that. So the entire Wednesday, which usually we spend doing stuff with Gamma, we just spent in the gaming hall checking out other stuff. Now, what we did have was a media first look event, which we got to look at the hot new games, but it was actually a media and retailer first look. So that was another combination that's a little different than previous years.
It's more like the big game nights that they have at Gamma Expo.
Yes.
There's just a bunch of people showing off their games, and all the retailers and media get to walk around and look at and check out games. Different than going to a media only event where they're like, okay, well, this one you're allowed to take pictures of, this one you're not. This is so brand new. This is a prototype, right? It was a little different than that.
Plus, it was a lot of people playing games. It was sit down and do a demo.
It was more like a game night.
Yeah, it was more like a game night. Media first look usually is stuff set out pretty for us to take pictures. So that was kind of interesting. There was a Gamma ice cream social, which we only had time to stop in at, have some ice cream, say hi to a few folk and head out. But one of the cool things that happened was the media and events arm with Ross and Nicole put together kind of a tour. And it was really neat because we got to go in some back doors and do this. Like he kept calling it the Skywalk. I don't know. But it was this, you went through the back, seeing the back end of the convention center where they store all, the coffee and the chairs and all this stuff. And you go into these little private rooms that are basically like VIP boxes at a sporting event. And we got to overlook the hall. And it was really neat when we saw the first one, but then they led us through like the 6 different ones,
all
giving
these
us
sky boxes. I think there was four. So the imagine 2 in the
gaming room.
The gaming room hall, and then 2 over the other hall.
Yeah, so that was really cool. It was just a cool photo opportunity. I did share some pictures of the unique view of Gamma, where it was kind of cool seeing all the booths from above. There was one amusing thing they did with that so the cosplay deviants booth was underneath one of the overlooks, which probably wasn't the best choice.
But no one's up there anyway.
No one's supposed to be up there.
I had to be careful with my angles while I was taking photos. That's all I'm saying.
I just thought that was kind of ironic. Then after that, we had like a hangout social, which unfortunately wasn't very well attended, but it was cool that they at least did something.
There was coffee. It was good.
That's true.
It's interesting that you say that nobody's up there. Those are the rooms that are usually on a show like that. That's where your floor managers are, so that they can look out onto the floor and see what's happening and be able to respond if there are problems. And if someone says, oh, there's an emergency, they can look and see where there's an emergency. Those really usually are used. So it's interesting that they were empty.
I meant the general public is not up there.
No,
I don't know. We didn't see anyone. They had the open curtains and everyone we got into and everything.
Right. Now, you mentioned the game library. So what about the game library this year? I heard some good things about it.
So it's our first time we actually went to the game library. Like, we've used the open gaming area every time we've gone to Origins, and we've hung out in that area. But I've never actually done the walk to look at the game library.
I have.
I hadn't.
Well, I have.
Anyway, I had. It was impressive. It was a ton of games. They're all in these cabinets that open up. The only thing I could not figure out for the life of me is how they had it organized. So I'm not sure how anyone was finding anything specific without asking.
You had to go there with a wish list and then try and find that game by cross-referencing their books, and then go, oh, that one's in the cloud cabinet, and then go find it in the cloud cabinet. I have no idea. There was some kind of magical system going on, and the people that were staffing it knew what they were doing. So if you knew what game you wanted, great. If you just wanted to casually browse, it was chaos.
I have no idea how they were organized. It definitely wasn't alphabetically, and it wasn't by publisher.
Nope.
Some of it was new versus old, so that there were some new cabinets, and I kind of understood that. But you'd be like, oh, these are all party games. And then you'd be like, no, there's more party games. I have no idea.
It was a great selection, though.
Yeah, it was. Really impressive selection. We tested it a bit. We're like, oh, do they have this? Yep, they had it. Do they have that? Yep, they have it. It flowed really well. There was no lineup. So that was something, I don't know if that's different this year or previous because I hadn't looked. But it was a much more wide open area where you just kind of mingled. Instead of get in line and wait till your turn in line, it was just open and wander around, grab a game, then get in line to check it out.
And I know I was really interested because I saw on Saturday that they had exceeded the number of board game checkouts of the previous year by Saturday.
Yeah.
So
That
they were really,
area-
really happy about how busy that went.
Mm-hmm.
That area was well attended. And it was like they have signs, and there was lots of signs out saying looking for players. There were people that were there to play with strangers, and there were open tables and open games going on. You could have definitely just walked around and played games in the hall, probably for the entire from Wednesday at noon when it opened until Sunday when it closed at 4 p.m. Except you got to sleep in there somewhere.
Yeah, the hall did close at midnight, so they did kick everyone out of there. We were never there.
But you were allowed to take games with you and have them checked out. You just had to bring them back.
You just had to bring them back in the morning.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that has been a problem in the past there was overflowing garbage. Despite the fact that they kicked people out, they hadn't in the past always necessarily cleaned up the garbage. Did you see any problems with overflowing garbage or anything?
I did not.
No, I was actually going to say the area seemed really nice, really well upkept, and they have newer table covers too that they've got for that gaming area. So you're not on the rough tables. They've got nice table covers on them. Like it was well done.
Awesome.
Yeah, one of the things that was also nice that some people were applauding was the fact the food was open in there. And we didn't find this place till Sunday, but there's actually a really good sushi place in the gaming hall.
Acceptable.
Okay, really good for at a convention in a gaming hall sushi place.
But so that's interesting because my next comment was actually going to be some complaints that I had heard from other people talking about the Subway not being there anymore and some of the convention center food booths no longer being there.
So,
I saw a sign that said Subway this way. I never followed the sign, and it was out on the floor, like in the middle of the game hall floor. There was a sign that said Subway. There was an arrow. That implies there was Subway.
So what there was less is there wasn't as much food in the hallway, but the concessions inside the exhibit hall and the gaming hall were open this year.
Interesting.
So you could get Jet's Pizza. There was a poke bowl place. There was a boba place. And I just think people didn't realize they were there. Everyone's just used to, you go in the hall and Subway's set up. That Subway was gone, whatever's.
And the stuff in the hallway was open way later in the day. You could actually get coffee at like 4 p.m.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And the restaurants that are out in the hallway were open till 6. So they were open until the hall closed this year. And I think a bit after, like 6:30. Because the hall would close and like that place that you could get burgers and stuff, it says it's like a brewery, was actually open this year. So I'm kind of confused by the complaints about less food because it seemed like more food.
The subway I was assuming they meant was actually the one in the gaming hall that was right across at the wall by the guy.
Were not there.
Yeah, so those are the ones that I think people were missing because you could go and get Subway in the gaming hall right across from that refillable drink place. And that's where I think people were expecting.
That wasn't there, but if you just walked around the outside edge, there were multiple concessions. That were
interesting.
Open.
And that's never been open before that I know of.
Yes, correct. That I recall. I think one of the ones in the back was before, because that's what vendors were using to eat. So I honestly felt there was more food options this year in the actual convention hall.
Good. And Victor's mentioning that the restrooms were even better kept, and that was along with the garbage time before. I remember going into specifically the restroom by the cosplayers last year, and like first thing in the morning, and it was already looking kind of dingy. So I'm glad to hear that has improved. That's awesome.
It felt like they had a lot of staff on that.
Yes.
It seems like every time I went into the women's washroom, there was a staff person in there currently cleaning.
Great.
Yeah. So,
that's great to hear.
It was great.
It was good. They still had the ridiculous mint soap though. I hate that stuff. That stuff smells so strong. One of the things I do want to call out that there was a lot of worry about and a lot of consternation online was the fact that the convention center has added additional security this year in the form of scanners. I don't know exactly what they were. I've seen people debate whether they were metal detectors or scanners or whatever. There was a security checkpoint in every single door. It flowed extremely well. Like I actually posted a video of this. You basically didn't stop unless you had a giant backpack on, and even then they were only pulling over certain people. It was basically a non-thing. Accessibility issue, we saw wheelchairs going through, we saw carts going through, people with crutches. Like it was honestly, I would say 100% non-issue. And if that's what it takes to keep everyone at the convention safe, all the power to them.
Great. And again, everyone was concerned because they didn't know. And hopefully now that they have experienced this in the future, we will not have the sort of advanced panic of the situation that was turned out to be unfounded. But again, without knowing, without understanding. And there were Columbus natives who had been to shows where they had troubles or they hadn't ironed out all the details yet. And it sounds like they've got those details nailed.
Incredibly smooth. I will say we came in on Wednesday and the hall doesn't open until noon, and I didn't realize it wasn't noon yet, and I saw this massive lineup waiting to get through the security, and I was like, okay, well, we got a meeting in there. We're gonna have to go get in line now. It looks like it's gonna take a while to get in, and Mo pointed out it's not noon yet. And the second it was noon and they opened the door, it just went.
I would say it took maybe 5 minutes total for the entire hall's opening for the first time line to go through. Like, to me, it was actually quicker than when they used to file everyone.
I was gonna say, I think I've had a bigger backlog waiting to get in when the hall first opened on years back, not having.
Well, because they had multiple gates to go through, whereas before they had people going through a single door, and like honestly. Now, I will admit, I have seen some people mention a couple issues, and without being too negative, the biggest problem was the exit doors. You were not allowed to go in where you went in, and the exit doors were closed, so people couldn't get in. Well, that was an accessibility issue for anyone who couldn't open those doors. So basically, people in wheelchairs or mobility devices had to rely on a stranger to come open a door for them. But that has been mentioned to many people and should be addressed. I imagine that would be fixed.
Well, and it's interesting because I seem to recall last time I was there being security at some exit doors, and that security could have opened those doors.
Yeah,
so
there weren't.
If they had shifted the assignment of a security, that they may have overlooked that one factor in the doing so.
Security at those exit doors sitting on the outside of them, but not on the inside of them. So someone was there to make sure that
no one was getting in.
Yeah, they were on the wrong side of the door.
That person holding the door, but he didn't want to be holding it open and having people cup and say, I want to go in, and he had to say no. And so
I suppose the people with disabilities could have knocked at the door and had it open for them by the security guard, perhaps. But
overall, it was just more relaxed. Like it wasn't as busy. I'm pretty sure they made the aisleways a little wider, which was nice. Maybe it was done to make it look busier than it was. I have no idea. But it went really well. And I wanted to mention that like Gwen did come with us. It was her first con. I was really proud of her because like after like the first hour, she was like, I'm good. I'm going to go take off and do things I'm interested in. I'm like, okay. Our kids are a little, I don't know, sheltered. They grew up during COVID, right? And I think that had an impact on them. So sometimes they start pretty nervous, but like they were really like she just took off.
I was like, oh, we're gonna walk around and do the exhibit hall. I figured you'd want to walk around and do the exhibit hall with us. And she's like, no, not really. Thanks for showing me where the food is, and I'll catch you later.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. We kind of gave her a tour and she was good to go. She is the only one that did the event ticket, so we got to see that, and she went to many events. It was kind of cute because she picked up a review copy of an RPG. So this was a fun interaction. She's looking at this booth, and it's a very diverse RPG booth. That is like big sign says indie RPGs here, and she comes up and she's talking to a guy who's describing a game to her, and then we walk away and she grabs my shoulders like, can we get a review copy? And I'm like, we don't review RPGs. Like, please, this sounds really cool. It's a collaborative world building, sounds really neat. And I'm like, I'll tell you what. So we made a deal with Gwen right then and there. I'm like, we'll ask for a review copy, but you have to review it. So sometime in the future, either Gwen will be on this show talking about that game, or she'll produce some written content we'll put up on the blog. And then once we did that became her thing. So then later she'd see something else like, oh, can we review that? And I'm like, so we kind of held her back. Like, deliver on the first one, and then we'll give it to you. But then I gave in later for Oshi Plush, which is a Japanime game. I'm like, fine, because I'm actually curious about that one too.
She'll have to bring her RPG to the Friday night monthly, the one shot.
She did
event.
come out with me the one time we went, so yeah, she'd probably do that.
Yeah.
Another kind of cool moments that happened is we ran into the Dr. Wicks team. They're working on a brand new game using Littoral Commander, which is like the modern advanced squad leader that the actual Marines use to train their troops, and they're doing a Starship Troopers dropping on a planet game.
It's so neat because they were talking about how you're trying to direct where they land, and that was the tactical advantage of trying to trick them into landing in the wrong part of the world as they're coming down. And I'm like, this is neat.
So they were working on that, and I'm like, not my kind of game. And so I happened to ask. I said, "Hey, how's Robotech doing?" Like, "Oh, you haven't seen it?" I'm like, "Seen what?" Like the belt. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "Oh, we're having a tournament on the last day of the con, and we have a WWE style belt." Which, again, it's in the Discord if you want to see the picture, but like it's got the STF one where the WWF would be, and I'm like, man, I kind of wanted to play. If we weren't tied up, their event sold out. It was only 4 people, and 2 had never played before. So I was like, oh man, I want to play this so I can win this belt. And another thing that was kind of interesting to see is while there were less publishers there, Brent is a friend of ours through Grandma. He runs Armchair Dragoons, or the Armchair Dragoon. It's a old school wargamer blog. They had a wargame area that was, I think he said, 10 times the size of previous events. It was massive. It was like a huge section of the gaming hall was just Brant and his team teaching war games. And I think I mentioned at the start of this, Origins got its start as a wargaming convention. So there's still a hardcore group of people that go to this con just to play war games. And it was cool to see that represented. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something I was going to do, but like I even saw games I knew. Like there was Command and Colors games. Richard Borg was apparently there.
They had a very large, very well organized area.
Yes, very well organized. And they taught every game. And I'm like, again, I was slightly tempted. I want to learn Space Empires 4X.
So we get recognized sometimes, especially because we do wear shirts like Mo's wearing right now and like Dee's wearing. Some people on Facebook will understand that Dee might be laughing right now when I say we get recognized, but apparently not so much Dee, but Mo, especially as the Tabletop Bellhop, does get recognized.
Yeah.
How did that go during that? What was the recognition and acknowledgement like during the show?
So it was pretty. It was like Gwen's always shocked by it, but it's pretty frequent. We've now gone to these shows so many times, and especially Gamma Expo, we got to know so many more people: publishers, designers, artists, creatives, now retail store owners. So we're really getting to know a lot of people. So even more so than before, it was one of those walk around the con and like, hey, Mo.
So that doesn't surprise me when all these people we just saw a couple months ago at Gamma Expo are coming up and saying hi. But the people that were coming out of the woodwork to thank Mo for having the Tabletop Deals account, yes. I'm like, we don't even show our faces on there, really. Like, how did you know it was him to come over and say, thanks, man, you saved me so much money? I'm like, that was weird.
Yeah, we had someone come over. I was sitting there just chilling, and I had a wrap in between in the hallway, and saying, Mo, is your name Mo? Like, yeah. It's like, oh, thank you so much. You saved me so much money. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then like the same in one day, in 2 hours, like when that happened, I had someone come up, a Corey, who's a game designer, came up. And he's like, oh my gosh, I heard your review of Three Witches. You're on point. You totally got my game. And yes, you pointed out every potential flaw I saw with it when I designed it. And yeah, I'm not sure how I could have presented the information better for people to learn the numbers, but I just wanted to start you. I know you're playing a game. I don't even want to hang out. I don't want to chat, but I wanted to thank you for reviewing my game. And then I had someone come up and like, Mo from G Plus, thumbs up, Mo. And I'm like, yeah, I gave him a thumbs up. And I'm like, it was all within like 2 hours. So there was like people coming out of the woodwork this year. It was kind of cool.
And I understand Dee got a little bit of ElfQuest fangirling in.
Okay, so the new Chaosium box set, I did not think I wanted it when it came out because it's right there. I could reach over and touch it. I have the old box set. But as I've discussed previously, they added in a bunch of new content. This was not made super clear to me when it was on Kickstarter, or I would have asked for Christmas.
Yeah.
All right. So ElfQuest, that came out in like 1984. ElfQuest keeps going all these years. All these new things happen. They had to add it to the game. I now want that game. But, I'm probably not going to go out and buy it because I don't really need a game and I'm not going to play it. And me trying to run ElfQuest was with the single worst and only experience of me ever trying to DM, and I don't want to repeat it. But anyways, they had a copy there, and every time we walked by, I had to visit it. Because I was like, oh, they've got copies of it out. And then on the Saturday, I had my ElfQuest shirt on. And I told Mo I want to go by and take a picture. I'm just going to go hug ElfQuest with my ElfQuest shirt on. And you can get a photo for me. And they were sold out. Yeah. And I was bummed out. And that's it. That's
What wasn't that?
not
You
much
like
of a
you
story.
like ended up bonding with the guy from Chaosium, who I don't know who he is, but he was someone important at
Oh, I
Chaosium.
know.
And
I
you were
took a
just
tour of
chatting
that
out.
Gamma
Every time you
Expo, too. Every
passed
time
by
I'd
each
be
other,
like,
you'd be like,
Health
"Oh,
Plus facts. And I'm like,
Health
yes,
Plus
yes,
facts.
sir.
Oh, did you hear about this Penny did this thing?" So yeah, that kept happening. That was kind of amusing. Another one that was amusing is Brian from Restoration Games Resurrection Games. Sorry, happens to be in the chat, but we had a lot of interesting interactions with him, and it was funny because I kept showing, like, anytime I'd be like, "What games have you seen that look cool?" And I'm like, "Oh, one we're kind of hyped about is this." Like, what? A DC Comics deck building game? So I'd be like, "Here, come!" And I kept leading people to his booth, and it was funny because at one point we were showing off the game to our friends at Outset Media, and he's like, "Okay, Mo, you like this game way more than you lead on. So here I am on the podcast. I really like Brave and Bold." So apparently that wasn't as clear as it could have been. So so I had some good interaction. We sat and played some games with him too, which we'll get to when we start talking about the games we played. So
It's
that was
interesting.
another good memorable interaction.
One of the things I find is we tend to be a little bit harsher on the games we do like, especially if we see that potential that isn't quite fully realized. And I think that's what happened with Brave and Bold. We loved it so much, and there were just these little friction points that were stopping us from fully expressing that love. And that's probably what was coming across a lot during that review.
We also tend to be a little more negative in the tabletop, like the casual tabletop, than we are in our full reviews.
Yes.
So if we've got, little points that are bugging us, we're more likely to bring them up there than in the full review, unless it's something, substantial.
All right. So a couple little questions I had, stuff that wasn't even covered in the notes. One of the problems that we have seen in the past, or not problems, differences that we've seen in the years that I've been there, was how they displayed the games to vote on for the Origins Award. I don't
know where that was.
Okay.
We weren't allowed to vote. Like there was no people at Origins got to vote for anything.
I'm not sure there was some kind of fan favorite thing.
There was a fan favorite thing, but you didn't get to vote for like the game of the year or any of that. All that was done off-site ahead of time.
It was not in the expo hall. I saw a sign down a hallway. There might have been a room that had games in it. There were some glass display cases. Those might have been the Origin Award nominees.
No, those were the new games. New games premiering.
New games.
Yeah, usually publishers pay for space in the glass.
No, that's what it was this year. I don't know. Apparently it existed.
Okay. Did they have?
I do have an amusing story about the awards. So in the Heavy Game Awards, the Game of the Year Awards, everyone expected Galactic Cruise to win from Kinson Key Games, just like everyone just assumed it, right? So much so that Eagle Griffin didn't bother going. So like Travis and Randall didn't even bother going to the awards. And sure enough, Speakeasy from Eagle Griffin Games, Vital Lacerda, Ian O'Toole won the award, and they weren't there to accept it. And they thought they'd be there, so they called their name and waited for them to come up. And then everyone's like, "Is Travis here?" And like, no one's here from Eagle Griffin.
Travis said he always goes, and
he
always go. This is the first year we've skipped. We had some other things that we could be doing that night, so we went and did them.
Plus, I feel a little less attachment to the awards since they removed any category we might qualify for.
And we weren't there officially as media, so you didn't feel obliged to cover it too.
Exactly.
But,
what about what about the giant sized games? Did they have like the giant Jenga and that's sort of family area?
Some around. There was less. Like I didn't see giant Galactic Cruise this year, but there was a giant version of what is it called? Leviathan Wilds, which is like Shadow of the Colossus, but like they had a giant thing where you moved your meeples up on it. There was some oversized games, but I didn't see as many as I'd seen in the past.
Okay, there was Galactic Cruise is a game from Kinson Key. You said Giant Galactic
Galaxy
Giant King of Tokyo was apparently there.
Yeah, that was down near the registration area.
It was more broken up.
I just think some publishers brought them and some didn't. It wasn't like you go down the hall and there's all these giant games, which we had seen in the past.
Fair. Did they have the puzzle, the puzzles this year?
Yes,
they did.
So what's
they
interesting
do still have
about
puzzles.
that, and this is good for our friends, Ravensburger no longer does it, but Cobblestone Games has taken over, and that's our friends at Outset Media. And it was really well done because the giant Outset Media booth, which is Sean's been in the giant Outset Media booth, was just as big, if not bigger this year, was right next to The Cobblestone
The
booth. There's,
Tournament of Pieces. It's
yeah,
called.
Tournament
Okay.
of Pieces. Cobble Hill. Sorry, I said Cobblestone.
Cobble Hill. Yes.
Cobble Hill Puzzles.
Yeah.
Ran it, and it was kind of cool because we kind of got to see some of it with the timers going and everything like that. It was in the same spot as previous.
Great. All right. What else happened around the con, I guess?
So yeah, there's some stuff I wanted to highlight that wasn't, in the exhibit hall at Origins, but was happening around Origins. If you're an RPG fan and happen to be near Columbus, run to this convention center and go downstairs where the game store is, because I don't know where they got it from, but they had the largest collection of vintage 80s and 90s RPG stuff I've ever seen. Like, there was sealed West End games, Star Wars. There was FASA Star Trek, Warhammer First Edition.
Mm-hmm.
There was Star Frontiers. They had the old Games Workshop Judge Dredd modules there.
Look, even if you don't want to spend money, it's like visiting a museum. We had just gotten coffees and we were showing Gwen around, and Gwen went into the store to see if they had Pokemon or whatever. And Mo had wandered off somewhere, and I'm standing there holding my coffee, looking in the store, and I see this guy with this pile of books, and he's adding to this pile. He's just putting it on the counter. He's going to be buying this stuff. And I'm seeing what's going into this pile, and I booked it back to go grab Mo. I said, you need to go into this store.
Yeah, it was impressive. And honestly, if it wasn't the first day, if we gone in on Sunday, I might have spent some money. But I was good and didn't go back on Sunday. But yeah, the prices were good. Like, they were not ridiculous in any way. Like, I would say generally cheaper than secondhand market prices, like half eBay.
I had some serious temptation.
Yeah, there was so much. I could have gotten every Cyberpunk 2020 module I did not have yet.
Mm-hmm.
They were all there. I got a picture of myself holding the media book because that one was really hard to find back in the day. It came from the late show. Like, it was a shocking amount of classic RPG stuff. All right, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because we are not a food show, but people tend to enjoy our food recommendations. So I'm just going to quickly go through. Yes, we stopped at Schmidt's. It's as good as ever. Ends up Tuesday, they have a buffet, which I didn't know before.
That's not necessarily a good thing if you don't like crowds of people.
Yes, so I was shocked because it's Tuesday, and there was a lineup at Schmidt's, and I'm like, what the heck? Origins hasn't started. Oh, it's buffet night. But it was still fine. Big Bar on 2 has changed. It's no longer the go-to place where everyone meets up. I don't know where that has become, but it's not the Big Bar on 2. Big Bar on 2 was just a gaming area now. So people were there playing games, sometimes buying drinks. They were also served food way later than they used to, till midnight. Bear Burger's still amazing. I still don't get why more people don't go there, but I don't mind because you have to wait. Barley's did their usual thing. What was kind of neat is instead of having 2 menus, the themed one and not, again, the Cyberpunk takeover happened there, and they had neon lights in the place, and they had a Night City menu, and they had a Night City beer. Was a neon raspberry Belgian blonde, was fantastic.
I'm not sure how I feel about eating Biotechnica chicken, but I did it.
Yes, exactly. It was well done. They did 4 pint glasses again this year. That seems to be their new thing because they did that last year with they had the classes from D&D. We did manage to get all of the glasses. Brucadia still exists. They opened it up for Origins. Biggest secret, like if you need somewhere to chill, play video games, but it's 21 and older, and we had Gwen, so we didn't spend a lot of time there. North Market is strange now because it's now attached to an office building, and I thought they were building a parking garage in front. No, they expanded that whole building into an office building. So you actually have to walk around to the back now, so it's a further walk than it ever was before, but it's still North Market. They've gotten rid of all the seating on the main floor to fit in more booths, but they're still seating upstairs. Secret Cabal had a meetup at the Whistle and Keg we stopped in at, and I've got to say, if you're a beer drinker, you have to go there because it is 50 taps. You get a card, and it's all you can drink, and you just tap your card and pour yourself. And I'd never done that before, and I thought it was really cool.
But it wasn't really 50 taps because a bunch of the taps were seltzers and whatever. There was not 50 different beers to try. I was misled.
Yes. There were not 50, but it's also possible they sold out of stuff because it was a Secret Ball meetup. And then breakfast, we found a place nearby in the Arena District called Sunny Street Cafe, recommended for breakfast.
Super good. We're going back there next year.
Yeah, that place was good. So there's my short little blurb about food at Origin. One of the fun things that has to do with food of Origins, we walk out of the convention center first night. It's 6:15. Call just closed. We run into 3 of our friends from Outset Media, George, who's come down to Windsor before, Paul, better known as Outset Media guy, and Kedrick Winks, the game designer. And they're like, what are you doing? They're like, looking for a pint. So lead him over to somewhere for a pint. We sit down, and then Kedrick starts breaking out prototypes. So Kedrick's got a really cool picnic game coming, and then a trick-taking game.
I really don't know if you're allowed to talk about that.
I'm not going to say any more than
that. But I love prototyping games and playing games with designers. It's always a hoot.
And it was funny. So I have a question to our crowd, and this is on behalf of Paul from Outset Media Games, is do food games sell? Paul thinks food games do not sell. All of the games Kedrick is currently working on are food-themed games. And he's like, stop it. Give me any other theme, not food.
Yes, I believe Paul wanted to retheme all of them.
I mean, Point Salad, a number of brewery-type games, if you want to include those as food. Food Chain Magnet. Is Food Chain Magnet technically a food game? I don't know.
Yeah, that one's pushing it. You're making burgers and stuff specifically. So
I didn't find the theme off-putting. I thought they all worked.
Yeah,
but
I think the market is available. From my point of view, there is a market space available for food themed games that hasn't been fulfilled. Like there aren't a lot of them out there. And so maybe that's hesitancy for some reason, or maybe that's just a gap in the market that Kedrick could
Paul's
fill.
argument was I could take a food themed game, retheme it something popular, and it'll sell better. Like, yeah, I can make it about food, but if I make it about something else.
Well, let's see, Sean, if we paste rocket ships on it, is it
better?
Exactly.
I like food games too, though. I mean, Point Salad is a fantastic game. So
that was an interesting one. So that's one for the comment section. If you want to comment on this, I want to hear. Do you think food games are cool? And I think he's including farming in that. And I will say farming is overdone. I am a little sick of farming themed games. We also had a dinner with Mark, our previous sponsor from Grand Gamers Guild. That was pretty good with a bunch of people. And the only thing I want to tell about that is something rather amusing. Is we're at this place called Parlay. So here's another hidden gem. I forgot this in the food section. So it's literally across the door from the Giant Head. Like it's 10 steps away from the convention center and empty. And I think it's because it's a sports bar and all the gamers are like, ooh, sports ball. Because I don't understand how this place is empty.
Yeah, it was fine.
And it was fine. Like, it wasn't great, but it was fine. So anyway, we're sitting, we're ordering food, and I ordered matzo sticks. And the woman comes by, she said, do you want a bunch of plates? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, get some plates in case anyone else wants them. I'm just going to probably eat 2.
I'm going to eat 2, and then the rest of you all can share them.
Yeah. So then they show up. They are 2.5 feet long, I would say, maybe about. They look like nunchucks. They're about 2 inches cubed, and there are 2 of them exactly. So sure enough, everyone at the table is almost falling out of their chairs going, well, Mo, so you're just going to eat 2, eh? Let's see you do that. That said, they were fantastic, and I'm sure Victor can back this up because we went back with Victor and his family hanging out, and I had to get them again because they were really good. But it was ridiculous. Like I got these and I got a flatbread pizza that was also enough to share. So I think I ordered enough food for the entire table of 8, just myself.
With a lot of leftovers. It's a good thing we had a fridge in the hotel room.
Do you have anything else you want to call out as like stuff we did around Origins before we get on to games?
Captivating Worlds?
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing we did, nothing to do with Origins. So we get along really well with Paul from Escape Mail, and they're a company that did the Shackleton series and they did the Escape Mail series. Well, Paul contacted us ahead of time and said, hey, last day of the con, Sunday, after everything's packed up, do you want to go do an escape room? And we're like, sure, we'll go do an escape room.
Here, what I love about this is I've been trying to get Mo to do an escape room for forever, and he had no interest, but we finally roped him into one.
Yeah, honestly, I still wasn't sure until I did it. Sorry, Brent, I did someone else's escape rooms before yours. Feel kind of guilty about that. So we went to this place called Captivating Worlds. Now, Paul is really into escape rooms. Like his company was founded because they did physical escape rooms, but then because of COVID, they shifted to producing escape room in a box and mailing an envelope. So he knows this stuff. Well, apparently there's this app called Morty, and this place has won the Morty Award 2 years in a row. Well, I got to say, it was as well presented as a really good haunted house, like the kind where the floors move and things shake and there's dust and smoke and sound effects and everything. So I know spoiling escape rooms is terrible. So we went to on a tourist what do you call it, like a tour of this abandoned mine, and we get stuck. We have to get out.
Yeah, which is pretty much what they tell you in the blurb on the site. And it was very immersive and incredibly well done. So it set a high bar for me. Dragging Mo to any further escape rooms, he's going to be disappointed.
Yeah, the person designs him as an electrical engineer, and he had a lot of things that were powered and electrical based and things happen based on what you did.
It was very cool. I super want to go back there next year and do another one.
Yeah,
The
one
place
of
is
their
called
other ones.
Captivating Worlds.
Yeah. So Captivating Worlds, that was out of town. I don't even think it was in Columbus at that point. It was in some small town in the outskirts.
It was like a
we'll throw a link in the show
30-minute
notes.
drive. Yeah, it was a wee bit.
All right. So a couple last little things about the show in general. The coupon books are gone this year.
Yes.
How did that affect things? I mean, you still got your pint glasses from Barley's, so obviously that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, because they just gave them to anyone who asked.
There was an electronic coupon book, but there was no way really to check off that you'd used a coupon. It felt like they didn't figure out the kinks and that it wasn't really fully implemented. And maybe next year we'll see a proper electronic coupon book. So basically, if you went to Barley's and bought food, you could get a glass. And we ended up with a lot of glasses. Now that made it interesting because normally it's like, well, we'll have 2 coupon books. That means we can get 2 glasses out of 4. This time we went there for dinner, we got 3 glasses. We go back for lunch, we get 3 more glasses. Now we've got extra glasses to trade with people.
Yes.
And we went back on the last day and got 2 more glasses. You know, we came home with a pile of glasses.
Yes, we have multiple Barley's pint glasses with cyberpunk
I might give those away at Walkerville Brewery or something.
Yes, I was going to say, if you come out to our gaming events, these might be door prizes.
Yes.
The coupon book, I got to say, did not work as well as they intended. I don't know how to fix it. I do appreciate the switch away from the digital coupon or from the paper coupon book. But a lot of people didn't know it was there. But the other problem is the same problem we've had with their app in the past is once you're in the hall, the Wi-Fi and cellular reception is not great. And I don't know how many people are using the app at once, but it crashes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So there were problems where people were like, I want to show you my coupon, but I can't even get the app to open. So it was not ideal.
So now I guess you already sort of touched on one of the issues here. Apparently this year there was a scavenger hunt. Now I know this is probably something what you guys wouldn't have done. I was wondering if Gwen maybe tried to do the scavenger hunt.
Oh, you're talking about the XP?
No, there was an Origin scavenger hunt too.
Oh, okay.
So there were 2 different things going on that were kind of concurrent and people were getting confused between them. So there was a scavenger hunt where you had to scan QR codes at certain spots. No, I didn't really take part. What I did try out though is there's this company, I didn't look this up ahead of time. It's like the XP Network, and they work with retail stores, conventions, publishers, and all these other people to produce these like scavenger hunts and reward-based opportunities. And you install an app, you pick a character class, you go to the XP Hall, which was this fake tavern they set up with cosplayers, everyone in character, where you showed them your app and they get you set up. And then you would get quests throughout it. And the quest would be like, go to the Catalyst Game Labs booth and do a demo. And you would scan it. And then the guy would have to verify you did the demo and scan something on his end. And then you get XP. And then you could trade the XP in for real things, which was kind of cool. You could get games. There was a specially brewed beer you could get in that tavern.
And my understanding is if you live in the States, this is a thing you can do. You can buy concert tickets or go to events at your local game store or whatever and earn XP points on this. But for us in Canada, it's not over here, so it wasn't really a thing.
Well, we could have collected a bunch of XP and spent it there. But it was more one of those neat things we tried. And then there was a whole thing like you would get rewards and you could slot them in your character, and it's like, if this is slotted in part 2, show it to a rep in this booth to do a thing.
There were runes.
Yeah.
And there was some kind of little dungeon at the back.
Yeah, which
and you were supposed to go in there and fight a dragon. And I wanted to do it. And I thought I would get the kid to go with me, but she had no interest.
Yeah, Gwen didn't feel like scanning QR codes. So it was weird. There was like 2 different things. There was an Origins hunt that I heard was pretty simple and whatever. The Pin Bazaar thing was still happening. I didn't take part this year, but that was still a thing. Many booths had pins, and there was a pin trading spot. The pin trading spot was just out in the hall, which was nice this year. You didn't have to wait for exhibit hall hours, so that was a thing I didn't mention.
Awesome. Well, I think it's pretty clear that we still like Origins. We plan on continuing to attend, but what about you? What's your favorite con? Is it something you think that would be valuable for us to attend to?
Let us know by leaving a comment or a reply or sending us an email, or best of all, post something over on the Tabletop Bellhop Discord.
Welcome to the Bellhop's Tabletop segment of the show, where Deanna and Mo are going to share all the games they actually got to try at Origins Game Fair 2026. Some demos and some full games.
So there's one thing I forgot in the last segment I want to call out that I actually thought was hilarious and brilliant marketing on the part of one dice company. So Black Oak Workshop made some kind of deal with the Gamma folk to have in the app a thing where you click, I have a dice emergency. And you literally just go there and you click, I have a dice emergency, and you can buy dice and they will have someone run it to your game table at Origins. So you show up and you're like, oh, I thought I was playing a D20 game. This is a fate game. I don't have fate dice. You literally open the app, tap, I have a dice emergency, buy a set of fate dice. They deliver them to your table. And I just thought that was hilarious and cool and utterly brilliant on the part of Black Oak Workshop, because I think that is so cool, because I've had that. Where I've been at a convention, it didn't have the dice.
No, exactly that. And then I went out on the floor and tried to buy fate dice, and there were none to be had.
Yes.
It was a pain in the butt, but that's a different issue at a different con.
Yes.
But anyway, I thought that was
I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, that is one of the smartest things I have seen in a marketing thing. If I made dice, I'd be reaching out to every con ever to do that. All right, on to games we played.
So many games.
We are going to keep this short and sweet as best we can. No full descriptions of games. First thing we sat down to play, All Play, had a really impressive setup through the whole con in the gaming hall, just tables with their games out. They did have some teachers wandering around, but it was nice to see All Play in the gaming hall because that was open for more hours in the convention hall. So we sat down on the first day, checked in and played Kabuto Sumo Sakura Slam. Talked about it on the show before. Deanna and I already liked it. I wanted to show it to Gwen. Thankfully, a stranger joined us who knew the game well enough to teach us. We played a team-based game, which I didn't even know the game played teams. And I got to say, the team rules were really good.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And Kabuto Sumo Sakura Slam is really good. It's a game based on the coin machine where you throw a coin in and it tries to knock things over. You're sliding discs onto a platform trying to knock your opponent's beetles off of the boards. And there's like an economy in it. It's just really solid game.
For something that involves some manual decks and some cooperation, because it was team-based.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. And that's the second time I played it now, because I demoed it before at a different con.
So yeah, that was one. Gwen's like, can we get a copy? And I'm like, All Play is very selective about what they let people take home. And it tends to just be their new hotness.
Yeah, and that's been around for a long time, because I played that and I haven't been at Origins in 2 years.
You played the original.
Okay.
So this is Kabuto Sumo Sakura Slam. So the original game was on a round board, and apparently you could play two defensively and the game wouldn't end. If you just played defensively, it lasts too long. So they changed it so it's a square ring with ring posts now. And one of the things they do is you put a chip on every post, and you're encouraged to go to a different side every time you play. And you're actually penalized for going to the same spot over and over.
Unlock a bonus move, basically.
Yeah, you unlock a bonus move if you go all the way around. And it's different the way you lock it in. They improve the game, and I've got to say it's significantly better while still being the same game. Next up, we met up with Christopher High. Christopher High is a game designer, indie publisher, has been a media rep for a couple different companies. He's got a new game company called Valor Mountain Games, where he was showing off a game called Pilgrim's Curious Adventures. It's one of 3 games he's localizing from Pink Troubadour Games. This was just a cozy, quick-to-play set collection, collect the items, trade them in for powers that get you a little bit of engine building, like kind of like Splendor with exploration.
Sean, this is right in your wheelhouse. It's that have a drink, have a chat, but play a game level. You'd probably really dig it. Beer and pretzel, but enough meat on the bones that Deanna still wants to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really solid. I was really impressed by this. I'm looking forward to seeing how Valor Mountain Games does. At least this one. We didn't get a chance to try the other 2 games he had, but
like 5 games coming out between now and the end of the year.
And
just Christopher Luck.
Yeah.
And in case people are confused, Valor Mountain Games is actually just an imprint of Catastrophe Games. Like the website is Catastrophe Games with a subset of Valor Mountain Games. So Chris started with Catastrophe Games and has basically got a sort of like a record label imprint within Catastrophe Games that is Valor Mountain Games.
My understanding is that he's both publishing his own games
and
localizing some.
I think the difference is the ones he's publishing himself of his own games and the others are localized. So I assume Valor Mountain is the localization, but I'm not positive. We went back to the All Play booth because, again, games were just set up and finally got to play River Valley Glassworks. So if you go back to our previous like Origins coverage and Gamma Expo coverage, we were excited about this game when it came out, but never actually picked it up or got to play. So we got to play the deluxe edition. Oh, it's so nice. It's so nice to touch. This is an Azul-like in a way. There are multiple markets set up down a river, and they flow like that game Niagara. They're clear, and you literally like pick a thing up and move it to the back and then slide everything down. What you're doing is you're spending a stone from your collection, placing it out on a spot, and then collecting all the stones on the spots next to where you placed. And where you place is based on the shape of your stone. But then when you're collecting by color, not shape. And you're just trying to collect sets of different colors. And it does the above and below thing where like your first column's only worth 1 point per stone, your next column's worth 2 points per stone, your next 3 points per stone, and so on. Those aren't the exact numbers. At the end of the game, though, you only score your 2 highest columns, and then you score completed rows as well. It is extremely solid. Looks amazing. I don't know the difference between the deluxe and the not, but the deluxe was really nice. I know the stones are the same
in the retail.
In the retail, you still get the cool stones, but I don't think you get the dual layer boards. And I think the river tiles aren't clear. I think they're cardboard.
This was super fun. Tactilely pleasant game. There was something about this, like it came out a while ago, and there was something about this that I had felt like there was a lot of hype around it to an extent that maybe it was overhyped. So it had kind of fallen off my radar. I had gone from really wanting to try it to I don't even care. And then I sat down and played it, and I'm like, okay, I want this game.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a riddle. It is a riddle and pinchback game. And so I think what goes along with that, there are a lot of fans of riddle and pinchback games. And so it can easily get loudly hyped because a lot of people really like their games, and rightfully so. Yeah,
for good reason, as far as I'm concerned. Actually, it might be my favorite game of theirs that I've played.
Really?
I'm kind of going chronological order here, but not exactly. So one of the things that we mentioned earlier is we were invited to like a media first look, or I think they called it media and retailer game night. But we got to see some cool stuff there. Gamehead had a new, very friendly, cozy fishing set collection game with a bunch of tiles. I was excited to see Play to Z is bringing back Dogs of War. This is a highly collectible, cool mini or not game. That was set in the Warhammer universe that's coming back. That looks really cool. Play to Z was also showing off The Brain, which had the best description ever. So Zev, the publisher of the game, is like, okay, it's the mind, but it's a game.
I'm sold right there. I want to try it now. Right? And we had given away a copy of that in our giveaway a little while back. And before that, I didn't know that it existed. So yeah, I need to try The Brain.
Yeah, The Brain is the game, but a game, the mind, but a game, which I'm sorry, that sold me.
So interestingly, that Gamehead friendly fishing game is actually a reimplementation of a game from 1986.
Oh wow.
It's got some real history behind it. It's not just a little throwaway. It's a family friendly game, but it's not just a little throwaway.
And I got to say, Gamehead has impressed us. We've only recently started working with them, but we played First Class Letters. I thought was fantastic. And we've done demos of a couple of their games like Trick to the Future. And I've been really impressed by what I've seen by them. Nice small box games at a good price point. Full game, pretty much full demo of a game called Button Kingdoms, which Guyana got confused with Glorious Guilds of Buttonville. Yes. And then we sat down. I'm like, this is not the game I played before. So there are 2 button games came out. Like, you know how you get that concurrent design thing going on? This matched up auctions where you're bidding on things, so blind auctions.
It's kids playing imagination war forts, and buttons are your currency.
Yeah. And it's matching up like auctions. There's bribery. You can trade things back and forth. You got like Empire combat where you're building fortifications, trying to do damage to each other. It was also a deck builder, because what you were bidding on is new cards for your deck. It was interesting, but it was way too much negotiation for my tastes. Like, I don't think the game would work if you just played it mechanically. And because of that, I find that's not great at our brewery events. And
it's not my style. It's not what I enjoy doing. Yeah. Like, I liked the mechanics and the theming of the game. I actually thought it was very good.
Yeah.
But when you got down to it, this is one of those games where if you're not constantly negotiating, it's not going to be fun. And I don't like that style.
Yeah. So I got to say,
there's one group I can think of at our events that would probably like that, except it's too big a group, and this game only plays up to 4.
Yeah. I'm sure it's perfect for certain groups of people. If you're a diplomacy fan, here's a nice, like, more accessible version of diplomacy, right? If you're into those kinds of games, Chinatown's your jam. You'll probably dig Button Kingdom. Kinston Key was there showing off their latest game. This was, honestly, I would say, one of the talks of the con. Everyone was talking about excursions. So it's I hate calling it a simplified Galactic Cruise, because that's like calling Sanctuary simplified Arc Nova. Like, there's some theming tie-in.
I feel like calling Sanctuary a lighter Arc Nova is succinct. It gets the idea across.
Well, but it's not just a reduced, right? It's lighter. It's not just we dumbed down Galactic Cruise. I didn't want to get that across.
Well, it is a re-implementation of Galactic Cruise.
Yeah, it's a lighter re-implementation. It was really cool. It looked great. They did not have copies there for sale, but it looked really neat.
We're supposed to be reviewing it later once it hits
So,
retail.
interestingly, they're listing it as a 2027 game.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit. That's
that may be next Gamma Expo.
They were showcasing it because it's coming to crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
But because their first game was so ridiculously popular, I don't see any way there's not going to fund. This is the hottest new company in board gaming right now. Kinston Key is the new Paverson Games.
Well, and they got Ian O'Toole to do the art.
Yeah, it's Ian O'Toole doing all their art. It's amazing. They're the hotness as far as heavy games go right now.
Which is hilarious because they only have 11 games and most of them are Galactic Cruise.
Well, yeah, the Galactic Cruise was their big hit, and it was just last year. There was a company called Frostbite Studios who I didn't recognize, but they were showing off a game from Holly Black called Enemies and Loves: The Crown of Elfheim, which I guess is a famous young adult fantasy series. Holly Black's really well known.
She's an artist, so it's a graphic novel series.
Okay,
and I recognized it because the kids are into it.
But this is
her art in general.
Yes, and what I thought was funny was I thought the game was called Holly Black because this is the first game I've ever seen published where the name of the designer and artist is bigger than the name of the game. I actually didn't realize that it was called Enemies and Lovers or whatever.
I mean,
because
it worked. It made me go over and look.
Didn't get to hear gameplay, but I do have to say the art was really beautiful.
And that's Enemies and Lovers: The Crown of Elfheim.
Yes, Elfheim. I wasn't sure how to pronounce that. Elfheim. CGE was there showing off Codenames Critical Role, which is a big deal for people at Origins. We got to see that at Gamma Expo. But what I do have to say is it looked better. It was more produced. I'll have a little bit more to talk about later when I actually sat in on a demo.
One of the ones that was interesting for me was Littlest Lantern Games was there with Elementary, which is the newest game from Sandara Tang and Manny Vega. And I had demoed that game at Gamma Expo, and it wasn't for me. I didn't love it for various reasons, but then I couldn't stop thinking about the game after I played it. So I thought, there's something there. And I went by and I just wanted to stop by and tell the publisher and have a chat with them. And he told me how they had tweaked some of the rules since I had demoed it. So now I really want to play the darn game again.
Yeah, it's Elementary. You actually checked this one out more. So there was one called Biome from Lioness Games.
Okay, so component-wise, like absolutely over the top, just ridiculous. They have little birds' nests that are like made of twigs. I don't know how they're going to last at the table, but you can't not get drawn over to look at this game. It sort of had Earth vibes. Yeah,
looking at it reminded me of Earth, what I saw. We did take a review copy home on that one, so you will get to hear more about it in the future. Speaking of games we took home, one I grabbed was Primordial Secrets, which is a really unique deck-building card game where you're playing unfathomable godlike beings who are interacting with each other and sending your members to the other player's courts. And if you try to impress people at the court, you might sneak away with some secrets. Or your people might get won over by the other court and sacrifice themselves. And the game was all about collecting 6 sacrifices or obtaining 6 secrets before the end. And it had a really cool look. And the company was actually there in the media first look to show off a Kickstarter game. But when I explained to them, we don't do Kickstarters, we only do this, they're like, hey, you can help us with this because this game's 2 years old and we're doing a new printing.
And it had a really unique art style.
Yeah,
some Polish artist I hadn't heard of it, and it had done all the artwork in it. Very cohesive, neat look to it.
And of course, there was tons more at the media first look. That's just the stuff that stuck out the most to us.
And interestingly, so the artist of that game, of Primordial Secrets, is Hanna Lisowska, who is actually the co-founder of the game studio and creative director of Primordial Secrets.
Okay, there you go.
So yes, Polish artist, but living in Washington, USA.
Okay. I don't think they were at the show. One of the things you ended up learning is you ended up over at Catalyst Games Labs when I was off at some point learning about the Duke.
You had wandered off and I was killing time and I was watching them. They were showing off some new pirate dice game that's sort of Liar's Dice Plus. And I was shoulder surfing while they were demoing it to some people, and I was killing time at this booth. And then I ended up talking to the demo guy and talking to him about how much we love the Duke. And then he told me that the Duke is coming back, that they're reprinting the Duke. And if I went over to the XP Tavern out in the other hallway, that they had one copy of the Duke that I could go see. Now, there's some interesting stuff going on here. So, I mean, I already have a copy of the Duke. I don't need a copy of the Duke, but I'm very excited to see it back in print. I love this game. But they have made it a $20 MSRP, so a far lower price point, and they're using cardboard tiles, which maybe doesn't sound that great. But he kept emphasizing there's so many millimeters thick, you gotta go look at them. I went and checked this out, and they are like big, chunky, thick cardboard tiles, really nice, high quality, and actually visually better to see on the table than the original components. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, and again, on our Discord, we've got pictures of the new version of the Duke.
So what are they calling it? Because it was the Duke, and then it became the Duke Lord's
Just
Legacy.
The Duke.
So it's going back to the Duke?
Just the Duke.
Okay.
And he said if it does okay, that they are going to put out expansion contents, but the idea is to put out just a little bit in each expansion to keep it smaller, more manageable, not too much all at once. Also, they have a new director of their game department that is sort of rewriting their rule books, and their rule book clarity has improved vastly. It was a conversation we had.
We had an amusing conversation about how RPG companies should not write board game rule books.
It'll be interesting to see what they do, because right now there's 2 entries in Board Game Geek, and there is no mention of a new version on the Duke or the Duke Lord's Legacy. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do for an entry.
I think it's a Gen Con release. I'm not sure. Like I said, there was one copy there, and I was told that was a production copy because I asked, because I wanted to take photos and I wanted to know if it was a prototype. Sure. And they're like, no, that's production.
Yeah, everyone listening to the show knows I love dexterity games. So I played a really cool one called Jam Sumo. Now, this is from Brown Castle Games. This is the company that makes the like super high-end crokinole boards. The company that kind of became Tracy Boards, but in the US. This is, I don't know how to describe it. It's a multi-tiered wooden disc thing that's, I don't know, how big is that? 1.5 feet diameter, maybe, with a hole in the middle, and these stages you put on the edge. And what you're doing, and the jam part, so there's 2 parts. You play jam and then you play sumo. In jam, you're putting a disc on top, and a die, like a D6 die, and you're flicking it, trying to get it in a hole in the middle. So trying to get a 20 in crokinole. But like crokinole, if you already have if your opponent has a piece on the board, you have to hit their die first. So it's like kind of like a mini crokinole with flicking, and it's kind of neat. And you keep playing until one player has all their dice down the hole, and then the other player scores negative points equal to the values of their dice still on the board at the time. Then you take those little things off and you switch some things around, and you play sumo. Sumo is the opposite. Here, you're flicking on, but you're trying to stay on the board, and it's the last person to stay in the ring. And you're just flicking until only your dice are left, and then that's your final score, but then you have to subtract your score from jam. And you play so many rounds based on the number of players. This was just really well produced, because Brown Castle Games, and it was magnetic, so all of the things stores in this like little kind of UFO shaped thing, and it's magnetic. You lift it off, you swap around, the number of platforms are all notched, and it's based on the player count if you're playing 2 or 4 players. This was a lot of fun, and I was surprisingly good at jam and surprisingly horrible at sumo.
It was physically pretty. It was well made. It should shock no one when I say I'd rather eat rocks than play this game.
I want it for a brewery.
So were you said it was you played on the square version?
No, it's round.
You played on the round version. Okay. Because there are this game goes back a while. You're actually playing what is essentially the 10th anniversary edition.
Oh wow. Okay.
Of this game. The original was actually a square game. The game hasn't changed, but the board has changed and things. It went from a 4-player game originally to a round 6-player game.
Yeah, the round is the version I definitely played. They also had a square game that I didn't actually try, because by then Gwen and Deanna had joined me and they wanted me to get away from the flicking games.
Probably Cubico or Cubico.
Yeah.
That's their
like
square one.
Yeah, I didn't actually get a full. They started describing that, and I'm like, nah, Jam Sumo. If I'm gonna pick up either, I was gonna pick up Jam Sumo.
So it looks like they were bought by Brown. I'm trying
Games.
Brown Castle Games, because the original it's all publisher is Cubico Games on all of these. The listing of the publisher is Cubico Games, but the link goes to Brown. so
all right. So the square one is called Kung Fu Zoo. Totally different game.
Oh, okay.
With custom dice with animals on them, and you're battling and trying to knock things into holes.
It looked like a game, just not for me.
Yeah.
Sure.
I did not play Kung Fu Zoo, so I can't say anything about that. Mark from Grand Gamers Guild, our previous sponsor, gave us an overview of Kokeshi. This we took home. This is a combo building game.
I had already gotten a demo of this at Gamma Expo, so I basically brought Mo over and went, this one, look at it, you want it.
So it's good. It's all about Japanese dolls and being artisans creating Japanese dolls, trying to set up combos by building columns of tiles without getting into the minutia, because this one's not the easiest to explain. Really rewarding game, and we've already brought this home and played it, so there's a good sign. One of the first games we brought home from Origins that we cracked open right away.
Without going into any detail, what I told Mo after playing this was it was exactly what I expected it to be.
Now, one I wish Sean was with us for. It was called Bagged and Boarded, and it is a game about collecting comics in the golden age of comics. Like, you're spending 5 cents a comic or whatever. It was all pennies and stuff. You were a kid trying to do it. It was a worker placement game where you're assigning, I think it was like 6 cubes to different areas of the board, and there was like the comic shop. You could go to a comic convention.
You could do chores.
You could do chores to get money. You could cut grass. There was like all these different things. You did a planning stage where you're putting out your cubes, and a lot of the spots were like the first person to go there gets a better thing than the second person. But then you resolve them in numeric order, 1 through whatever.
Interesting thematically, there's some cool things going on because you go through and pull out comics. Well, then they're sitting out. Now I know what's available. You're getting your comics signed. You're putting them on display. So you're making sets and then having your bagged displayed comics out.
Yeah, you can't display your comics until you bag them, because who would do that? Like, it was just really thematic and cool. Honestly, if this was out in retail, we probably would have brought a copy home.
Yeah.
This is one I think it kickstarted or it crowdfunded, and it's coming soon.
It might even the Kickstarter might still be coming out.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it was
because we don't tend to pay attention to that. I don't think this is kicked yet, but it was a done game. It was a complete, finished, real game, and it looked great.
It's interesting because the publisher of this game, this very much feels like one of their games. So Octoraf Games is the publisher of it, and their other game is Brick and Mortar. Like their whole concept is like systems theory and behavioral economics, which just really fits the theme. The
other game was definitely not complete. It was there in prototype, and we didn't even bother because again, we don't tend to cover prototype games. And we kind of said next year we'll be back and you can show us your other game about running a game store.
So Mo had to wander off for a bit, and Gwen and I were killing time. We happened to be by the booth for Crabs in a Bucket, and it's a game that I had seen before, I think at Gamma Expo the previous year, and it had not got my attention. It was a super light Uno adjacent sort of game, but Gwen really wanted to demo it, and we were just standing there killing time. So I did a demo, and after I did a demo, I went, you know what? That's a game. It's not awful. It sort of reminded me of playing the Deadlies a bit, though I will say the Deadlies is better. The Deadlies does not exist and is not in print, and I really thought people at the brewery would dig this game, so I asked for a review copy.
Yeah, it's an interesting game that we brought that out to public play events now. It's been played. People are enjoying it.
And we then played it at the convention with some friends that we sat down to game with the one night, and Mo hated it and wondered why I asked for a review copy. I will defend it as Uno adjacent.
Yeah, to me, it was closer to Crazy Eights because it used standard traditional playing cards. It was a Crazy Eights with a bunch of jokers that do wild things. If you like games like Flux with a lot of chaos, you'll probably love it.
It was fine. Like, this is not my style of game. I'd rather be playing a big crunchy hero, but for what it was, it's fine.
Yeah, and I think the number of players makes a big difference. It plays 2 to 6, but you don't want to be playing in 2 and 3. You want to have a few more players in there. Again, because the randomness is part of the fun. Like you kind of want that crazy chaos.
And the people we showed it to at our public play event the other day really dug it. So.
Yeah. All right. One we didn't play, but I want to call out just because I've never seen this before, and that always catches my attention when I see a game doing something new. It is called Worn Wanderers. Worn as in you're wearing something, and that's because it's a pin-based combat game where you wear your warriors on pins. People have them on their lanyards, and you attach cards to each of your pins to like level them up. And then you run into someone else having pins and you can battle. And I just thought
about what cards on top and you fan them out. Yeah. And I did see people wearing them out in the wild.
And I thought it was a really unique concept. And as far as I could tell, there was no like, I win your pin. It wasn't like an anti thing. It was just like make your own little character and customize it with cards and run into folks and play your little pin game. Next game demo was in the Genius Games booth. One thing I don't know if people are all aware, but Genius Games has acquired Elf Creek Games. So a bunch of the Elf Creek games like Honey Buzz or Santa's Workshop are now going to be coming from Genius Games, which is great to see that because Genius Games does some good things and they know how to run a company. And I'm glad to see those other games not fall out of print. But the game we played was one of Genius Games' own games called First in Flight. This is a unique deck builder about the discovery of flight with the Wright brothers and other famous people from that time period, where every round you're going to fly your plane, and it's a matter of just flipping cards from your deck to see how far you go. And of course, at the beginning, your deck is filled with like problems and crashes and flaws and stuff like that. And it's deck building different because in here, there's only like 3 cards to add to your deck, and they weren't like, there's no market. It's just, I buy a flight card or I repair my thing. So I trade this card for this card, and you grow your deck. And then it's kind of like a customizable push your luck card game.
You're putting more flaws in too, as you're building. So
as you add more cards to your deck, you have to add more flaws and like, so it's a really unique look at deck building.
And all you're trying to do is have your flight go further.
Yes.
Yeah. It was neat. I would play it. Well, we didn't play through a full game. I'm going to back it up because Victor's saying that Bagged and Boarded has funded already. So I probably should have researched that beforehand.
Yeah. Now we know Bagged and Boarded was funded on Kickstarter.
And also going back a little bit, the Worn Wanderers. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of with that is that it's like rarity based CCG almost. It's got like foil and different rarities of pins and so the people who like pin collecting, apparently it went over really big at Gen Con with some people last year. And if you are interested in that sort of thing, check out their Discord, because apparently it's a really active Discord community. So if you go to cons, you like pins and you're interested in that sort of thing, definitely check out the Worn Wanderers.
So yeah, it was popular. Like that booth, it was mostly people looking through binders. Like you see Pokemon players or card game players, was people looking through binders. They had a glass case with the rare pins.
And people like me going, what the heck? Yeah, that looks really unique. And getting the overview and getting it explained.
Smirk and Dagger booth was popular. Man, trying to talk to Kurt was pretty much impossible. The one thing that really stood out to us, like there's the new Boop card game, Boop Shuffle, which we did take a copy home. Well, technically, we got it before we went to Origins, but whatever.
But we have
a Blorp, which is a big deal. This is stuff we saw at Gamma Expo. What I didn't see at Gamma Expo is a third game in the This Game is Killer series called Franchise of Fear, which is very much based on the Five Nights at Freddy's horror franchise. So that was cool to see.
I was super excited to get my grubby hands on a copy of Trickerous because that was one of my favorite games of Gamma Expo, and it's in print now. So.
Yeah, we do have Trickerous, which has some unique changes from the Japanese original, which we'll be talking about soon, because that's another one we got home, cracked it open almost right away, and have already played. The other thing that was cool to see is Kurt found a case of the Deadlies and had it for sale at the con. And we know that he sold some copies of the Deadlies at the con with people we taught the Deadlies.
And I believe there is only like 2 copies left in existence. I don't know. We also took home a copy of A Place for All My Books, which is another Smirk and Dagger game that I have been waiting to get to the table.
Yes. That'll probably be out soon as well. One of the most unique games I played was mass market, find it at Walmart style game called Stacks, spelled Staccs for whatever reason, because you never want anyone trying to Google your
Okay,
name.
we're going to pause here for a sec. You need to imagine some kind of Escher Kubert style stuff going on.
Yes.
Mo was describing these cards getting laid out, and go look for the pictures in our Discord. This game is so visually unique.
So it's hex-shaped cards that are cubes, and they have standard playing card things on them. So suits and numbers, and there's queens and whatever, and jokers, and you stack the cards by matching the suits or the values. And like suits go up and values go left, and then there's this like funky stack twist thing, and you end up making these like I said Escher like, or these impossible cubes out of it. It was really interesting.
The way you cover over some, but can still build off this way, but not that, because that's in the background now, and you almost end up with this 3D image that you're looking down on. It's wonky.
Yeah, it was this like brain bending pattern matching game. It was quite clever. It looked cool on the table. I would like a copy of this because I think it would be great at our brewery events. It just the visual appeal of it. I think
they only sell it on their website.
Yes.
It's not in regular retail.
Yeah, the only place to get it is to go to their website and buy it from them direct.
And there is an app, but right now it's only iPhone.
Okay,
so you
did not see.
But I mean, they even sell playmats for a ridiculously.
I feel like it would be an app implementation of this would be great.
So yeah, it's $18 on their website, $18 US. So one deck is good for 1 to 5 players. With 2, you can play 6 to 10 players.
There you go.
And new inventory is almost here, so you're pre-ordering if you go to the website right now.
Okay, they did have copies at Origins. I don't know. They were doing very well. It was one of the more popular games I noticed. Asmodee had quite a few. They just had a bunch of game tables set up with a bunch of stuff going on. The one that stuck out the most to me was a new Middle Earth roll and write, and it was based on The Hobbit. It's just The Hobbit there and back again. You got more of an overview than I did on that one. So it just looked really cool because it was a dry erase book. And I liked that.
Yeah, and it was basically you're going to go forward, and each one was a chapter in the story sort of thing. And very different gameplay from one to the other. So the fellow that was giving me the overview obviously was not a Lord of the Rings fan, because he referred to the dwarves as the gnomes, the gnomes that you were bringing to the wizard. And I went, what is going on here? But
I know it was dice based. Like you were rolling a bunch of dice, and there were different colored dice, and you were spending them to fill things in.
Yeah, and that people were demoing it constantly, so I never actually got to sit down and play it because the table was always busy. Yeah. So I just stood and watched some people play it, but it looked fascinating. And like I said, what was interesting to me was that each chapter was very different. How you would have to approach it differently. It wasn't just the same game rethemed 10 times.
Oh.
Yeah, I know that it's a thing where people get free badges to come and work at a booth, and you get locals to come out to in order to see the show. But you gotta know the difference between a gnome and a dwarf if you're going to be.
Yeah. I also think it's a lot, and it's a long day, and I give people a lot of grace, but that one made me giggle a bit.
I will admit we got some pretty bad demos at a couple different booths in this particular case. It happened. We also got some awesome ones. We took a look at Jason the Argonauts. This is the latest one from Envy Born Games. We've talked about many other games before. This is their follow-up to Hercules and the 12 Labors. It looks amazing. Currently crowdfunding, successful. Well, at the time, it was currently crowdfunding.
I think it might be done at this point.
Yeah, it might be done at this point. That was cool. We actually got to sit down and try String Theory. So we talked about this game at our Gamma Expo coverage, about how these people had this conspiracy theory game set up on the Gulf crossover bridge.
Okay. They've got the marketing aspect down here, because they were out in the gameplay hall, and they had made a giant mock-up of their game. So the game involves spools with thread where you're connecting conspiracies, and they made it where the spools were like 1.5 inches tall, and you had this giant version of the game. And everyone that was playing it had tinfoil hats on. So you could see them from across the hall wearing tinfoil hats playing this giant mock-up of the game. So I'm like, they were certainly getting all the attention over there, but it wasn't just a gimmick. It was well deserved because the game looks solid.
Yeah, and that was it. We actually got to sit down and play a round of the game, and it was kind of cool. So it was order fulfillment. So you would get like an order in your hand, and it'd be a conspiracy, whatever. You're trying to prove this conspiracy. And you would do it, and the spots on the board were like Area 51, Flat Earth Society, whatever, and you'd be trying to connect the threads between the various conspiracies and the theory you're trying to prove. And if you successfully did it, you would win over sheeple because you were a podcaster trying to get sheeple to follow your podcast. And one of the commentaries about it that I think is hilarious is at the end of the game, the winning score might be, I have 7 listeners. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
The interesting part was, like I said, you're building these strings across. And if you cross someone else's string, that means you're calling on their past episodes and they're going to get some.
They end up getting sheeple for that. Yes. If you cross over a line, you're using someone else's proof and they get rewarded for it. But like, I've heard the hype and I saw people talking about this, and it's a very unique looking game, very toyetic with these, because your worker is your spool of thread, and every time you move, you're leaving string behind. And the game ends when you run out of thread, when someone runs out of thread. But I'm like, I'm very pleased to say the game is solid. Like, there's a good game there, and it's at that almost gateway level. Like if you're a gamer, you'll have no problem with this.
I'm really looking forward to playing a full game of this one.
This is one we're supposed to get a copy once it's actually finished and out.
No, that's not true. We actually agreed to review a prototype.
That's right. We don't do. Yeah, we're breaking our own rule. We're going to talk about this one before it. So
yes,
that's right.
Because it looks so cool.
Because it's so cool. This is one like we talked about Tony from from Derby Games. Tony ran into us early in the con. It's like, do you see Theme Theory yet? I got him to give me a copy. I'm going to have a copy in my shop so people can play it. So that was pretty cool. Now, another one I wish Sean was there to see is called Roller Brawl. This is a miniature war game, skirmish game, whatever you want to call it, sports game, miniature sports game, inspired by the cult classic 1975 Rollerball mashup of sci-fi, roller derby, blood and gore. Blood and Bowl meets roller derby. It is still very much a work in progress. This is one where I shared information on our Discord, and then people asked questions. So I actually went back on Sunday and sat down with the designer and talked to him about his game. And that was mostly me and him geeking out about when Games Workshop made coffin-style box games that said 3D role-playing on them, because that's what got him into gaming, and that's kind of what got me into gaming. And it's inspired by that. So it's got the Blood Bowl, 2 combat dice when you attack someone, and you might fall down, or they might fall down, and then you roll a random die to see which way you went, and then you could drop the ball, and the ball, you roll a bounce thing to see where the ball bounces, and like, it looks amazing, but it is so much a work in progress. But holy cow, someone took a 3D printer and made an entire arena, filled it with muscle men in the crowd, which I thought was hilarious. They already have miniature sculpts, and then they had roller derby folk as like booth babes there. Like, there's no booth babes at Origins, but there were roller derby folk promoting the game.
People on roller skates in the middle of the con floor do catch your attention.
Yes, and they were geared up.
The muscle men got my eye.
Yeah, the muscle man was cute. And I'm like, all I gotta say is I'm looking forward to see where this is going. They definitely hit me in the nostalgia. And like Sean's been sharing amazing photos of local roller derby lately. So
yeah, that one is interesting. My issue with it is that they put on such a giant display that you could never put into a box. Like, it's completely unsellable in its format. So what the game is actually going to be like, I have questions because they went so big on that. So
the whole thing is the game is a rule book. You'll be buying a rule book. It's a miniature game. You make your own scenery.
Gotcha.
The game does not come with a cool amphitheater full of muscle men.
No, you are buying teams and team boxes, and you're buying a rule book, and then you're making your scenery.
Okay.
I said old school Games Workshop.
Right. Yeah, very old school. Okay, yeah.
What I want to call out, upended games. I don't know why no one has done this before. You can see behind me, I have a bunch of games, a bunch are laid flat. You ever build a box insert? They're always designed to go in a flat box and the game to be stored flat. Well, this is a company that makes box inserts for games that are vertical. And I got to say, it's kind of brilliant.
Yeah, it struck me as super smart. They were really well made. And he was like, here's a piece of paper, and I really would love you to tell me what more you would like to see. What game do you need to be able to store upright? And I was like, oh, he's super excited about it.
And we might reach out to them just to ask otherwise, because I'm like, I kind of want to test it with stuff we have a problem with that we bring to our local gaming events, because I've got box inserts and I do all the things I can, and they're great when I store them flat, but then we bring them out to the brewery and bring them home, and they are terrible. There are certain games distilled from Paverson Games. I hate bringing it. Like, I'd have to tell Gwen, pack it separate so that we don't tip it, because it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's interesting because he actually I assume the owner of the game started on Kickstarter and it did not go well. But they do have at upendedgames.square.site. They do have a website with a number of products there. Not a ton yet, but they're getting there. So maybe worth taking a look for some people. They've got Brass and Terraforming Mars and
those
Pipeline, Lost Ruins of Arnak, and Castles of Burgundy, plus a few other things. So worth taking a look at if you're interested.
Yeah. We ended up just running into Eamon Anderson a
lot. That was weird.
And he's a game designer and artist, and he's got his finger in a whole bunch of pies. But of the very many conversations we had with him over the con, at one point we were talking and he said, one of my favorite games, that I've made, one that I think you would really enjoy is, have you tried Twinkle Twinkle yet? And we hadn't. So we went over to the All Play booth and we demoed Twinkle Twinkle. And Mo and I were having so much fun playing it that we almost missed a meeting.
Yes.
I looked down at my watch and went, we got to go. And we had to bolt across the hall.
Yeah, it was cute. Quick, clever game where it reminded me of Star Explorers from Queen Game a bit, but that's a flip and right.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, these are tiles that have various star patterns on them.
Cool acrylic tiles.
Cool acrylic tiles that you're putting over a star field. You end up making a grid. It's not very big, like maybe 4x6. I can't remember off the top of my head. Again, pictures in the Discord. And then each type of style scores different. Like planets score points if they're on their own, but score you nothing if they're near a black hole. Comets wanted to be somewhere. You were trying. Yeah, satellites wanted to be near planets, and then you scored your biggest connected star constellation or something. But it was one of those just quick playing, and then there was some kind of advanced rules where you could change what you were scoring. It was a really clever game. I was impressed
from
by
that
it.
one play. I really dug it.
Yep.
And supposedly there's an expansion for it that is supposed to add even more modular bits of excitement.
Yes, there is. The artist for that, because I think the art on it is quite interesting, is Natalie Dombois from Germany, best known probably for most of the art in the Dixit Disney edition.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Brucadia, the Hidden Gem. It's a free-to-play arcade as long as you're buying food and drink. We were there for a while and played some Shobu. Just because it was just we were kind of cooling down at the end of the day.
They had a small shelf full of games.
They had a small shelf full of games.
I suspect is there year round.
So we played a bunch of games of Shobu. We had to do some substitutions because there were some stones missing, but it worked.
I took apart a sushi stacking game and we put some components from that into Shobu to make Shobu pieces.
Yes. Be able to be played. Got to look at the new Thunder Road Ignition. I shared this on socials that this was coming. So this is a lower price point, smaller physical footprint version of Thunder Road that is simplified, where it's actually honestly closer to the original Thunder Road, where I think vehicles could only take 1 damage.
I feel like they kicked it down a notch to make it a little more family weight, an entry level Thunder Road.
So it's an entry level Thunder Road, and one of the cool things on it is the boards are shorter, but there are 2 curves. And I think the real draw of this, though, is this also acts as an expansion for Thunder Road Vendetta. So new entry point for people who don't have it, but also, hey, add curves to your Thunder Road Vendetta. Moon Saga Workshop had a booth there. They're a smaller indie publisher, and they were showing off a game called Aya that we ended up adoring. That was honestly the first review copy we actually accepted because we finished that game and said, dude, they also published Parks and Potions, which we talked about back in our Gamma coverage. And they sent us email cover Parks and Potions for us. And I'm like, it was just too simple. It was a color-based game that just wasn't enough there.
Too light for us.
A little too light for us. Cool game, but too light.
And I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. I think it's Aiye. Aya, I think.
It's actually Aiya.
Aiya. Okay.
Aiya.
So I had seen Aiya, I think back at Gamma Expo, but at that time it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So now there are copies. It hasn't quite hit retail yet.
Yes.
We got
They had their pre-release copies there, and they were selling them there. It was the first time it was available for sale. It is really cool. So this is your Tableau builder where you're building columns of things, and when you activate them, everything in the column happens. Some of that is getting money to buy new cards to put in your columns. But the way the columns...
I'm going to correct you because I don't think it was actually for sale.
Okay.
It hasn't fulfilled yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, go on.
So you're building columns, Tableau Builder, where you're building columns. But the neat part is the way you activate those columns is through Mancala. So you are picking up all they're called seeds, but pick up all your stones and drop them one at a time. And where you end up on is where you activate. The interesting thing, though, is the market you're buying from, what you're using to buy is also your own stones.
Yeah, and this is the cool part because you can take them from anywhere. They don't all have to come from the same columns. You take 2 from here and 1 from there. So you're changing your Mancala setup every round, and you can really figure out what you want to trigger off of that. So it's really neat.
Yeah, and the cards have all kinds of abilities. There's a thing where you can grow your number of columns. You can shrink your number of columns. There's just a lot of interesting things going on.
And you can kind of chamber people off to the side in a council. And
yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on with this one.
Although I have to say, having seen the box and stared at it for a while, I hate the font. I hate the font terrible. on it. It really looks like an interesting game, and I don't want to judge it, but the font on the box makes my skin crawl.
I literally had to ask the dude from Moonsaga Workshop, what's the name of this game? Which is pretty bad.
But the art and everything it is in
yes, so
absolutely.
It's
just the lettering of the title.
Futuristic. Yeah. Afro-futuristic setting with really amazing artwork. All right. So we agreed to take a review copy, and you had to sit us down to tell us something that I think is disappointing. So this game originally was published in Brazil by a company called Grok. Yes, spelled Grok. On the box is the Grok logo next to the Moonsaga Workshop logo. People saw that and assumed the game was completely generated by AI. So
now the company Grok existed before there was any AI association to that word.
So no, the game is not generated by AI. The art is all hand-drawn. It has nothing to do with Elon Musk's Grok. But unfortunately, the company they imported it from is called Grok. They have had people back out of the Kickstarter. They have had people ask for refunds. It has been a disaster. We want to make it clear and set the record straight. Aya is not at all created by AI.
And to be clear, it has gotten to the point where on their publisher webpage on Board Game Geek, they have had to call out that they are not affiliated with it. And I mean, this company is well enough. This company developed cartographers. This is not like they're not this new run-of-the-mill sort of company. This is they develop cartographers.
Right. And so the reason was we got a pre-release copy, and he said the newer version, it will not have the logo on the front.
Which is just disappointing. They have to even do that.
Right?
I find it extremely
But he's like, make sure when you're showing it off that you...
Thank you, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
All right. Not a specific game. I just want to shout out to all the amazing miniature game tables. I love seeing this every year at Gamma Expo, at Origins. Yes, the giant skyship table is still there, and there was an entire vault for the Fallout, an entire Fallout vault, multi-tiered dungeon. The most impressive, though, was the scale section of Night City, including the docks from Art House Orion. My gosh, this is one of the most amazing game tables I've ever seen, filled with nooks and crannies and game fights going on and everything else. Forest for the Witcher game, dungeons, dragons. There was an entire Ewok village, so you could do the Battle of Endor, and of course an entire Battle of Hoth set up. There is a specific dog fighting game that uses wooden dashboards. They had that running, but it was Battlestar Galactica, which I thought was really cool.
Some of this I've seen again and again over the years at Origins, so I'm getting jaded, but I love seeing Gwen's reaction to seeing all the over-the-top miniature tables.
So that was just a cool. I did want to shout those out because I was going through my pictures, and like one part of one day, I just wandered the miniature gaming hall and took pictures. Next, you did a demo of Wispwood from CGE.
It wasn't a full demo. It was just an overview. The gist was you're building your own forest. It's a grid out of tiles that you're drafting. You pick a wisp and a shape and think like Tetris-like shapes, and you build this forest. And then there's some carryover between rounds because some tiles clear and others stay. The wisps stay. So in later rounds, it's more challenging to make those Tetris shapes fit into your forest. I think it only plays in 3 rounds, maybe 4. It was a quicker, lighter game. It looked good. I haven't actually played it. I thought it looked neat. I asked for a copy to take home.
That was in the CGE booth. At the same time, while you were checking that out, I sat down and watched one round of Codenames Critical Role, and now I want it for sure. Like I wasn't sure. I was like, Codenames Critical Role. There's a whole thing where it's co-op and one player's the DM trying to get you to guess the words.
Particularly after we finally played Codenames Marvel the other day, and I hated
horrible.
it.
Yes,
I was like,
I don't usually say that. I did not enjoy Codenames Marvel. So it was just really like all I did is I sat at the beginning and I heard like blah blah blah, sit you down at the tavern and here's your quest, and they explained it in the rules. And what it was is you had to find an assassin. So you had to go around and you had to gather 6 pieces of evidence, and then you had to go and present the evidence to someone. And then once you'd done that, you had to catch the assassin to arrest them. Well, that was all done with Codenames. So what you had to do was match the 6 words that was the evidence. Then you had to match the word that was the whatever, the reporting or whatever, the compiling the evidence. And then you had to find the assassin, which is just something you don't want to do in Codenames normally. And to help the group doing that, anytime they picked the word near the assassin, they took a damage. So you could kind of like try to figure out where on the board they were.
The words are RPG themed words.
Yes.
You know, like grog and dagger and stuff like that. So that's fun too.
And I'm like, okay, it's not just Codenames with a Critical Role theme. Like they've totally added a story in this, and you're playing differently, and they're doing interesting, cool things with the Codename.
And they change up, and there's like a campaign aspect to it.
That actually sounds interesting because again, I have never watched Critical Role. I have no interest in Critical Role. The IP means nothing to me, but the fact that it's a game that you don't necessarily need to know the IP.
No.
Makes it actually interesting.
Yeah, it's super approachable because everyone knows, fantasy.
It's fantasy tropes, right? It's your generic fantasy, and you have a character and a character sheet. You take damage, and you can level up and all kinds of stuff. Speaking of Codenames, they also had the mini expansions for Codenames. You can see them behind me here. Codenames Sci-Fi, Codenames Fantasy, and Codenames Cute Creatures. I think that one's just for pictures, so we didn't grab that one, but we did take home copies of those. From what I understand, they're not just cards, but we haven't actually opened it up to check it out yet. The other thing that shone in that booth are the upgrade tokens for SETI and Arnak. Holy cow. Like, I get that there's a whole market of people on Etsy who have upgraded these. None have done as good as CGE did upgrading their own game.
Yeah,
I begged to take these home, but they were the only 2 copies in existence at this point because they haven't actually published them yet. They look so nice. The compasses are dual color. They're metal. The credits are they're just so nice.
Super shiny. I so wanted them. I think they're coming out at Gen Con.
So it looks like €39.99 for the SETI upgraded components.
Yeah, they're not going to be cheap. But they're nice. They're metal. I like.
Honestly, most of those sets on Etsy and stuff aren't cheap either. So.
Yeah.
So one of the things we did before going to Origins, we went on the Tabletop Bellhop Discord, discord.tabletopbellhop.com, and said, hey, is there anything we should check out? And we had one of the Discord members say, you got to check out Crime Guys, the crime game from Placeholder Games. I'm like, all right, sure. So we're there. We look up where Placeholder Games are, and we wander over, and there's this rather popular booth, rather big booth, 2 demo tables going into this game with polyominoes on it. And it was interesting because I'd seen it the day before and thought it was a cyberpunk hacking game. Because something about it just looks
visually,
like...
that is the vibe,
Yeah, I don't know, the vibe, because it's got these neon acrylic tiles being put over a black grid. It looks like a hacking game. And honestly, I think you could totally retheme it as a hacking game. But instead, it's, Sean would hate this, it's anthropomorphic animal gangs fighting each other for territory. That didn't matter at all. Like, I even asked them and I pointed it out. I'm like, my podcast co-host would hate that it's animals. Why'd you make it animals? And they said, well, because a game about animals fighting is more acceptable than a gang about actual human gangs fighting each other. And I'm like, all right, I guess I get it. People do that. Well, anyway, this is a rather straightforward polyomino drafting game. So you're using cards to draft polyominoes of various sizes that represent territories that your gangs control. And there were 4 different colors for the 4 gangs, I think.
I think so.
I think it was 4, might have been 6. And then gangs at the start of the game, you figure out who are rivals from each other. So in the game we played, like, red and blue were rivals and green and yellow were rivals. So you couldn't touch territories of rival gangs. So you're not playing one of the gangs. I don't know what you're supposed to be from the outside, but you're drafting various
city
colors.
Grid in front of you, your own personal grid.
Yeah, but you're manipulating these various gangs, putting out these polyominoes. It was abstract. So you're putting out polyominoes, and then you're scoring points for every polyomino in a group that you have.
And it's not like you lose points. You just can't stick them next.
Yeah, you just couldn't put them next to each other.
Placement rules.
But then there's this neat thing where the cops will show up in one of the 4 districts. And if any of your gang overlaps into that district, that gang scores no points.
So let's say they're going to go to the warehouse district and you've got a gang and it starts in the warehouse district, but it goes all the way out into this other district over the harbor district. And then it also goes into downtown. I don't remember the actual names. And they would travel. You would get busted in all 3 of them.
Yeah. So then there's a worker placement element where you can do things like you can be the stool pigeon, which modifies the deck where the police are going to raid. So you can add in to play the odds to make it so the harbor gets raided more often because you're not there. There was a way that you could spy, I don't remember the name, where you could peek at what district it's going to happen, which led to this really interesting thing where someone would start guarding an area and you're like, oh, that must be where the cops are going. But then maybe they were bluffing. So that was kind of neat.
And you're like, wait a second, they must know that that's where the cops are going. And then they're like, I haven't even looked. I was just guessing.
Yeah. There's a way to protect the district so that you put these turtle guards on the district so it didn't matter if it got raided. There was a thing where you could sneak in contraband. So if you were confident that you weren't going to get raided, your tiles would all score double. But if you got raided, there was a penalty.
And you had HQs that you played.
Yeah, it was neat. It was a very abstract tile laying game with a theme of doing crime.
All of this sounded great until I got to the point where I realized they're still playtesting it.
Yes, and that was the problem. Is we were there and they're like, oh, ignore this tile, treat this as a 2. This time we made up this deck this way. And I think that's the first time I've ever at Origins been in an exhibit hall booth where someone was actively playtesting their game and using the crowd at Origins to playtest their game.
And they're like, okay, now make sure we mark down the scores because I want to know how this variant, if the scores are going too high. And I was like, okay, this is not a finished game.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Placeholder Games has one game, which is their version of Rummy, Campfire, and Crime Guys will be their next game eventually.
Yeah, so I honestly, it was interesting enough. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to it.
Like, I enjoyed it. We played a full game and I had fun. But I can't tell you that if you went to play that game, if you'd have the same experience I did. So.
Oh, and we had Upended Steve in the
we had Upended
room.
Steve. Cool. Didn't even realize. Cool. Next, we're talking about playtesting games. We tried a game called Which Way, spelled Weigh. Very unique game that kind of reminded me of Trash Talk because there were just bits of stuff all over the table. It looks like someone raided the unpub room and put it up. But there was also string and bells and stuff. And there was a scale.
When I saw the picture, my first question was, is this Trash Talk for physicists?
Yep.
Yes, that cracked me up, Sean.
Kind of is. So literally you roll 2d8. And then based on it, you make 2 piles. So if you roll a 3 and an 8, you're going to make a pile of 3 items and a pile of 8 items. You put them out on the table. Everyone looks at them and then uses a chip to vote if they think which side weighs more. The person who made this split has to vote against the majority. So there's an encouragement there to make it look even. Then you just take the stuff, you dump it in the scale, see what's heavier, and then players get points based on if they're right or wrong. That's pretty much it. And I got to say, it's simple, stupid fun that worked. Like it worked.
Not my kind of thing, but yeah.
It would be huge at our Walkerville Brewery events. I have no idea. This was super prototype. Who knows where it'll go? I don't know what the cost would be because the scale was kind of big and it had giant buckets to drop stuff in. Who knows?
It feels like one of those 80s games that like Mattel or somebody would put out where you can actually afford to do all that plastic work.
Yeah. Flock Together, a fowl-themed game about leveling up your birds to fight off predators. Looks absolutely amazing. Like, this game just draws you in. It has such amazing graphic design. It also has some of the best puns I've seen in a long time on a board game with all the different character names.
Chicken-based
all
puns.
chicken-based puns. Then it has this cool mechanic where every creature in the game, every character, and the baddies you're fighting are little spiral-bound books. And when you level up your character, you just flip the page. And like the board's 2-layered, designed so that the spiral sits in a notch. So the book lays flat. That
little detail, that just killed me. The fact that the spiral for the book notched in and it sits flat.
I just thought it was really cool. Looks really interesting. We ended up taking home a review copy, and they like loaded us up. So we also have like the new Birds of a Feather expansion and the promos and stuff like that. So we're looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Siege Command is a 2-player line battler tower defense game we picked up because we met the designer Ryan Collins the night before at a birthday party and had a lot of good interactions. And he's like, you should check out my game. So we agreed to check out his game. Features some programming aspects where you're lining up your lines that are about to battle behind your DM screen, like your walls of your fortress. And then, so you don't know what your opponent's doing, and then you reveal them. Every unit is going to move at least once, and they're going to move, then attack. Kind of reminded me a bit of Summoner Wars, and like I said, the kind of classic Nizia line battler, but with the medieval theme of everything slowly marching forward.
Yeah, and I liked that, the way that you were watching them slowly march forward and claim the lines. So it looks neat. I can't wait to play it.
Legends of the Arena. This is one where a publisher reached out to us. It's Toth Games, two brothers, the brothers Toth. Got ahead of time, and we're like, can you please review our game? And I took a look at it, and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is for us. They're like, well, we'll be at Origins, you should try it. So made sure to stop by their booth. Card driven 2 to 6 player line battler, not line battler, sorry, like 2D fighter battler. But unlike, say, Exceed or what's the other one, Battle of Endines, it wasn't based on Street Fighter, it's based on Super Smash Brothers. And it is the first tabletop version of a video game battler where your goal isn't knock your opponent out, it's to knock them off the board, which is how Smash Brothers works, where you're slowly wearing your opponent's stamina down, and then every future hit sends them flying further. And it's got this neat mechanic where you can even do the last second turn to end up back on the board. And I thought it did a really good job of recreating that feel of a chaotic smash the button battler. And it kind of did the tag team thing, but you're only programming 3 cards at a time. So you're not adding new cards. You're drawing a hand of 5. You're programming 3 of your cards. Then you're drawing up to 5, programming 3 of your cards. But it's doing the reveal, see what happens, reveal, see what happens, reveal, see what happens.
Yeah, it was clever.
It was clever. The problem is this isn't available yet. So we know how much you hate when we talk about games you can't get. So we did not agree to take home a copy of that one.
If it has interested you so far, while it is a 2 to 6 player game, they do have a solo expansion planned and an expansion that allows for arena sort of effects. So the location can impact the matches as well in another expansion.
So Cardboard Alchemy, that's the company that did Flamecraft Duels, among other games, has a game coming to Kickstarter. I think right now it's on Kickstarter, called Whisperwood. I wanted to do, like, I actually booked myself to play a full 4-hour demo, but it fell through. So I didn't play the full game. Instead, I got a scripted demo of it. But just know that I was excited enough about this game that I was willing to clock in 4 hours of Origins to go check it out. It is very asymmetric, and there's a lot going on. You're moving your druids around, and there's golems.
Isn't it it's like a heavy roll and write, isn't it? Or flip and write?
It's almost a bag builder. You have dice and a pool, and you have a pool, and there was like cool little chutes to dump the things back into your pool, and you're moving guys around on the board and interacting with golems, and you also have familiars, and it was a lot. I could see it was nice and chunky and just about my weight. But the other people that sat down for the scripted demo with me, I could see them like panic on their face as the various levels were described to them. You do this and now this. And when you move this, it chains off this and then this happens. And I was like, sweet, this sounds great. And Sean, there were otters and they were really cute.
Did they have thumbs though?
No,
they do describe it as like they call it a bag building game for 2 to 4 players of druids.
It is a bag builder,
but like a 4-hour bag builder.
Yeah, well, they said to expect 45 minutes to an hour per player, so you're locking in for a good chunky game.
The listed time is 120 to 180 minutes.
Oof, that's for a bag builder. That fascinates me.
And age is 14
really
plus,
try it.
So I'm interested in seeing what the weight rolls out to be.
So that one is actually launching soon. So you can actually go to Kickstarter right now and follow it and get notified when it launches.
Coming up soon. It's all getting mixed up in my head. So apparently they were doing like a puzzle aspect when the Kickstarter launches. That if you solve these puzzles, you can be put into a draw to get a copy or a deluxe copy of the game or something. So that's a thing.
That's cool. Now, we were talking earlier about media things we got as being media. So one of the things we did get invited to this year that wasn't a GAMA event was Asmodee invited us to a media event, which I guess is something they do every year. But it was our first time being invented, and one of the cool things, like, you're invited from now on, so that's pretty awesome. This was awesome. Like, this was a very structured event put on just for media. The entire room was filled with media folks. Recognized a lot of them. The Kabbalists were all there. That was cool. And like it was someone higher up at Asmodee introduced all the games, and there was 5 tables set up. 5, 4, 5, 5, I think.
6.
6.
6 games.
6 games. All right, 6 tables set up, and a demo person for each table, and you sat down and you played the game, and then people rotated and played another game. Now, none of these games were even on the hall floor. This was a soft launch at this weekend, where they were letting influencers or content creators actually announce the games before they officially had. So we did have permission to take pictures and talk about all the games but one, which we won't be able to share pictures of, but we can talk about a little bit. And that game had just shown up that day.
It's a prototype. That's why we couldn't take photos of it.
Complete prototype of a game. So I was just really cool, and like, we were there the whole time. We tried every single game in the room.
Got to meet some of the designers.
We got to meet the designers of the games. Like, it was just a really cool event. So here you go. This is, I'm sure other content creators who were at that event have already shared some of this, so we're not like totally giving things away here. But these are games that have not officially been announced yet. At the time, some didn't even have Board Game Geek pages. They all do now. I did notice.
I'm pretty sure they all exist at this point.
Yeah, they all do now. So the first was Citadel's Duel. So Citadels for any Dice Tower fans. This is a classic multiplayer game, distilled down to a 2-player version. It has the standard cards 1 through 10, but it's a drafting game. So you get your hand, and you have to give 2 of those cards to your opponent, which gets really interesting with the assassin and thief cards. You're then, instead of building your own tableau of buildings, you are instead both of you are building a city in the middle of the board out of tiles, and you're vying for control. And if you take over a tile, you flip it from your side to the other.
I think there's 9 cards in total, and you end up with 3. Your opponent ends up with 3, and at the beginning you put 1 aside, and you're also going to each discard 1. So 3 are out of play. And a whole bunch of this gameplay is just trying to guess which numbers, and you have a very educated guess, your opponent has, and then they just get played in numeric order. You say, does anyone have the 1? And you play the 1 action, etc.
It was interesting. So you're building the city, you're doing area control. There's a bonus for building similar districts, and then there was also like a town council where you're also vying for seats, and you would often, a lot of the actions required you to spend those council seats to do things. It was solid. Like, I'd say you could probably play it on a coffee shop table pretty easily. It didn't take up a lot of room. It had lots of back and forth, a lot of bluffing and guessing. Not necessarily bluffing because you didn't have to talk, but wondering what your opponent's going to do, kind of like Deanna said there. One of the things that was kind of cool about this is the game comes with component storage in it. And it was like all these envelopes and tuck boxes to sort everything. And I thought that was neat to see.
Yeah, we're like, what is that tiny box? They're like, that is the box where we keep the king. And I was like, what?
Do you want to talk about this next one, or should I?
We got to try the K-pop Demon Hunters Battle of the Spotlight. And it was taught by the designer, Walid Ma'orif. And I probably just butchered that poor gentleman's name. He was a delightful human that we got to meet. So this is a take on Love Letter. And I sort of don't like Love Letter, and I was shocked because I really enjoyed this game. It's a team-based version of Love Letter, a co-op version of Love Letter, and I really dug it. Half the players are playing that. I know nothing about K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm going to probably say everything wrong. Half the players are playing the Saja boys, and the other half are playing members of Huntrix. But you're not. You're playing fans of each, not the actual characters. So it keeps the standard draw a card, play a card gameplay, but teams are trying to make sure the mix is on their side of the stage after all the cards are played. So you're trying to get the audience on your side, basically. And I know, like I said, I know nothing about the show, but it is definitely one of the best versions of Love Letter I've ever played. It was actually super enjoyable.
Next, the one we can't share pictures of is Concept, a new version of Concept. We have been asking for a new version of Concept for years. This is not what I wanted. But this isn't a bad thing. I want concept with better cards that aren't dated. Is what I really.
You just want a modern
reprint
of concept.
Yeah, I want a modern reprint. Maybe refine some of the icons. Whatever.
Yeah.
I want a modern reprint. That's not what this is. So I was excited we got a new concept, but I gotta say what this is also cool, but very different. So this is Concept Stories. It's a cooperative version of Concept, so no teams. One player at a time is trying to get the other players to tell a story, not guess a word, a full story, doing one little segment of the story at a time, based on true life events. So these are all, kind of those like stranger than fiction kind of stories, or like true shocking events that happened. You wouldn't believe this kind of thing. I don't want to spoil at all what the first one is because it's like the intro one and I don't want people to know.
But you know what? I'll make up an example. Like you could say, hey, people were stranded on an island and they got there on a very tiny boat and you're trying to get.
Yes, and you're trying, but you'd be trying to get people are stranded on an island and you're trying to get that. So you're putting your concept as people, you're putting lots of cubes there to show there's more than one. You're putting a cube on the boat to show they were on a boat, and lots of cubes on the island, and you're waiting for someone in the group to say, and you can do all the stuff you can do in codenames, or like yes or no or close or whatever. Like there's certain words you can say you can really coach. So you're like, yeah, they're like on vacation. You're like, yes. They were visiting. No, and then you're like island. Yes, island. And eventually you get it. So we were telling a story about people, and we're like, was it the man or the woman? And you use the icon. So it was funky. So it's code names, but you're telling a story, and then you tell one section of the story, and then you would hold that showed only part of the story at a time to the next player, and they'd have to get the group to tell the next part of the story, and then you'd pass, and then the next part of the story, and then when you get the whole story, you'd flip it over and then tell the full story of what happened.
I thought it was super enjoyable. I played this all night, and I like the original concept, and I, like you, was expecting concept part 2, and I sort of wanted that, and this is not that, but I loved what this was.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. But then Gwen joined us partway through the event, and we were playing a different game. We're like, "We'll try that." She tried it, absolutely hated it.
And I thought she was going to love it.
She's like, "This is not what I want from concept." No, she plays with her friends, and they don't use the cards and do whatever emotional feelings and song lyrics. So
she wants to play Pokemon concept or whatever the heck it is at their house bashing. So
yeah, she did not like the concept of the new concept. I want to share more about this. It looks really cool.
So I played this neat game called Melodies, and this was actually my favorite of the Asmodee Media event. It is a cooperative game where you are all jamming and you are trying to make a melody, and you have a handful of cards, and each of you is playing a different instrument, and you have a song in front of you that you are trying to play. And when your hand comes to you, you cannot reorganize your hand. It has to stay in the order that you get it in. At the beginning, you get to tune your instrument, and that lets you move one card in your hand to somewhere else. So you get to tweak it a little bit. And then you're going to try and put out cards, either all of the same number or a run, if I remember correctly. Mind you, I've only played this once. I don't want to mess it up. And then whatever card there is, everyone at the table is going to play. So in any order you like, all of the people that are playing, again, we're playing as a team, are going to each play some cards in that first round. And you are trying to make the first note. And you'll be looking at this song and you will know that you want the first note to be low. So you will hopefully all play a low card. And what'll happen is all the cards go out on the table, the various cards you play. And let's say the one that there was the most of was a 2, then 2 is locked in as your first note. And then the next you still have the same hand. You go into the next round, and now you want to play something that is higher than 2 because the next note in the song is higher. And so you all need to play cards that are hopefully higher than 2. And for that first beginner song, we had to do 3 or 4 notes in a row that were higher, and then one that was low, I think, if I remember correctly. And we saw other songs as well. So each hand would be you trying to complete this one song, where you're trying to make sure you go higher, higher, higher. Oh, but then at the very end, we want to make sure we go low. We want to go low, low, high, low, whatever, right? And you're trying to make sure that you lock in cards that make that playable. And if you end up with, and you're also trying to hand shed at the same time, and however many cards you have left in your hand at the end of a round is going to be how many fans you lose. And all of that, I thought, was super fun, super intriguing. I really want to play it again. And there was all these little boxes.
Well, it was a box and they were albums. There were multiple albums in the box. You would open it up and they would have the new song.
There were concerts. Each box represented a concert. And amusingly, they had these little concert posters with cute art on them. And the side of the box even allowed you to slot it in, and it would show some of the rules for that particular concert.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And you would get different, as I said, we were each playing different instruments, and that's where we got our asynchronous powers that allowed you to do some different things like shuffle your hand or play an extra card or whatever. Different instruments did different stuff. It was neat. I really dug it.
Last one. Oh, no, not the last one. Sorry. Next one was Azul Kids. It's very cool. This exists. Azul is fairly simple, but like this makes it even simpler. It's super cute. It's the same basic mechanic for the warehouse, except you just have different shapes, not colors, so just different shapes and colors. There's blue diamonds and yellow circles and whatever. You have your market, but your market's built into the box and it's little bowls with a big bowl in the middle. And I just want that for base Azul now because it was really nice to just scoop out your pieces, drop the extras in the middle.
Yes, I wanted to steal the component.
Yeah, I want to steal that for Fried Market Azul, which is I think the 2-player rules. And then you have a board that has all these patterns, like the one I was playing was underwater and it had all these fish and flowers and seaweed and whatever. And they're all each individual things, and you put the tiles on them and you get points for how many you complete by the end of the game, which is when all the tiles run out.
And they were asymmetric boards.
And each board was different. And the best part though, what made it a kid's game, and I actually adore this rule and I kind of want to try it in Azul, is when you broke tiles, whenever you had something you couldn't place, you just gave it to the person on the left.
And then if whatever they couldn't place, traveled on to the next person and etc.
That was just like a really cool way to make the game less confrontational because there was no hate drafting. There was none of that leave someone
and
a big
also,
thing.
Though, you're like, oh, if I take this, I know they're going to be able to complete their tree pattern over there. Yeah. Honestly, I think this is Drunk Azul.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, looking at it, as much as I think, oh, this would be a neat game to have at Walkerville for kids, I don't like the size of the components, and that like I feel like things are going to get lost at our public play events.
I don't want it at Walkerville for kids. I want it for gateway entry gamer adults. I just need them to take kid off the box, and this is entry level Azul.
And it's not small. They're bigger than the Azul tokens.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't think there's any. They're bigger than even
They're chunky.
They're chunky.
Okay, because it doesn't look that way in the pictures.
No, they're big and chunky, and the play mats are plasticized. And there's like a toddler version too, where if you flip it, everyone just has a single pitcher, and it's whoever finishes their pitcher first. So there's no score. There's no having to do math at all. It was really clever. It's honestly, if you're gonna do a kids version of Azul, I don't think you could do it better. It's perfect.
It was super clever. And when our kids were little, I think they would have dug it.
I'm going to jump ahead to one and then go back because it makes more sense. So the last game we sat down and got to play was called Happiest Cat in the World, which, man, you want the cozy theme's still strong this year with new games. Super cute game about reorganizing and building your house for your cat specifically. It is a deck building game, but instead of cards, you're buying and playing tiles. So it's interesting because you have your deck, but you're also spending those tiles as your currency, like in most deck builders, but to place tiles into play. So it's kind of wonky. They called it deck building, and I'm like, I get it, because every turn you would move your cat, then you would play a new tile adjacent to your cat, and then you would go shopping to buy new tiles for your deck. So it was kind of weird. Like it's
you have a deck. It's just
system.
A deck of tiles.
It's just a deck of tiles. But normally it's got that core worlds thing though, where you're playing cards from your deck, but then they never come back. It was kind of funky that way. Each different tile did different things. So you wanted like touching shelves, biggest set of shelves. There were food bowls where you're going to get points every time you can make your cat cross over the food bowl and eat. The most fun one was the mouse. So when you play one mouse, it's nothing. But when you play a second mouse, the mouse runs from one position to the other and your cat chases it. And you want the mice running back and forth across your house. Remember, you're making it the happiest cat in the world, not the happiest homeowner. It was just cute. It was extremely well done. There was variable scoring tiles to determine what you're going to score at the end of the game. There was 2 sides to what each room type scored. So kind of like Cascadia, with the different animal tiles. You could mix up how shelves scored between games.
It looked like a solid game.
Yeah, seemed really solid. That was, I would say, for the group of people who were in the room, the most popular game in that room. People seem really excited.
If I could have just stolen one to take home, it would have been Melodies.
Yeah.
And the artwork for that is by Bartłomiej Kordowski, the Polish designer who also did Chronicles of Avel and Between Two Castles of King Ludwig.
All right. Other thing that was in there. So these weren't games we could play, and I just want to call them out because, again, this was a soft launch. So these weren't officially launched yet. But we got to look at the boxes and the components for a few things. The first was Lord of the Rings Circle of Conflict, which is Stephen Bonacore, who used to own indie boards and cards and Stronghold Games. It's his first game design. They had the Mirage expansion for Take Time. The ones I'm most excited about are two expansions for Harmonies. One is Pulse, which features new animal cards just in a cheap card pack. You just buy the card pack and add them to your game. And the other one's called Crescendo, which has almost as much stuff in it as the base game, which has new two-sided player boards for everyone and a totally new type of creature. And then the last was Schadenfreude, which is a new trick taker. We didn't even get overviews of these. These were literally set up for us to take pictures.
I got an overview of those Harmonies expansions, and I got to tell you, I am all about those. I cannot wait for those to hit.
All right, next, we're going to bring up Resurrection Games again because we visited Brian and the folks there in their booth where they gave us a pile of stuff to come home with. So thank you very much for that, Brian. But we actually sat and played a round of one of their games, and that is Game of Thrones Master of Intrigue.
I'm going to stop you right here. So I'm going to admit something right now, if Brian is still in the chat, that we did not admit while we were playing this game. Neither of us have ever seen Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I read some of the books way back, but I've never seen
it. Yeah, like we're playing like that's Tyragon and that's I'm
and he's like,
brutalize.
Can't you see how they're doing the things? And I'm like, they are doing the things, yes.
Yep, sure. This house hates this house. Just like Lannister hates Lancaster or something. I have no idea.
You got the wrong bellhop at that demo apparently, because I've read almost all the books and watched most of the series.
There you go. So Sean might dig this one. So this is a no follow trick taker, which means you do not have to follow the lead suit. Where you get your hand of cards and you're going to pick one of the houses, one of the suits to be your rival. Then you're going to play a trick taking game where every card you collect is worth points. But every rival card you collect is worth negative points, and negative points equal to its value. So you've got that whole spades, hearts things where you're trying to give the rival suits to the players, but no one knows who anyone's rivals are because those cards are all played face down. And then there's special cards that let you peek, and there's, some
figure out
bluffing.
Mo's rival is so I can
start feeding me rival cards.
Right?
I thought it was pretty clever. There were a couple other special cards that did interesting things. It was neat. I'm not a huge fan of trick takers where you don't have to follow suit, but I did find it interesting.
The jury is out on this one for me. I need to play it again.
We played one hand.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Maybe we can get that on to the table on Sunday.
Yeah, we can probably play that easily Sunday or Friday if we can get together Friday. Or do we have something else going on Friday? We'll talk about that later. Next, full game. Don't do a lot of full games at cons, but we played a full game of Twisted Trumpets from Play to Z. I actually got to try this at the PSI closing party at Gamma Expo 2 years ago.
I'd never seen it.
He had never seen it. I kind of got it, and I thought it was cool, and I wanted to show it to her because we wanted to decide if we wanted to review it or not. And I'm like, try this.
No, actually, I walked over and asked for a demo, and Mo said, I've already seen this game. And then they said, would you like to sit down and play it? And I went, I would. And he went, okay.
Yeah. So you know that thing at the beginning of Monty Python's Flying Circus, or maybe it might have actually been from Holy Grail, but there's a trumpeter who blows the trumpet and then more trumpet pieces keep falling out and it makes a weird funky pattern and toots out instruments.
You're
doing that with tiles. So you get a hand of tiles. It's another one of those weird deck building tile games because you get a hand of tiles. Every turn you can take two actions. You can draw a new tile from the deck, you can play a tile from your hand, or you can spend tiles to buy better tiles, kind of deck building style.
I got my own board. I'm building a trumpet. Mo's got his board. He's building a trumpet.
Right. And then the trumpet is going to score by counting how far away each bell on your trumpet is to your mouth, so you trace them back. You get bonuses for loop-de-loops. There's like flags and banners that can be on it. You're trying to do a set collection thing for collecting different colors of banners. There's birds and music notes. It's just really simple, straightforward game. Like it just makes perfect sense. People pick it up right away. We had this out at our last pop-up board camp cafe where it was a hit and people played twice. One of the players was a non-gamer, just totally got it right
This
away.
is a gateway game, like just a solid gateway game.
Now, I'm going to let you talk about the next one. So while we're here, we're picking up our review copies, and Zeb's like, hold on, can you do us a favor and take some pictures and help us promote this game? And I don't feel bad doing this because it looks amazing. And that is their latest game, currently live on GameFound, called Siege Perilous.
And they had this game out, and it had a giant map of Britain or something. And for whatever reason, I just sort of looked at it and went, yeah. And he called us over and asked us to take a second look at it. And I'm like, oh, it's a King Arthur game. Okay, cool. And he starts pulling out this art. And they've got these, matted pieces of art. They are hand-drawn on vellum, like medieval illustration, like this belongs in a museum. Amazing art. Like the level of skill here is just mind-boggling. And they had tons of these, and they pulled them out and put them out on the table, and I'm taking pictures of it. And I'm like, the art is like jaw-dropping. And I later realized I was picking them up, moving around to like make a good picture. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have been touching them. I don't know. But beyond that, they started explaining the gameplay. The gameplay sounded good. Beyond that, they're like, oh, it's King Arthur theme. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And they're like, but we deep dived King Arthur. King Arthur has 1,500 years of different mythos that we could pull from. And we brought things in from all different. And I was super geeked out about this because
you had the actual years worth, like going back to whatever first Legends of Arthur to modern.
I sort of dig comparative folklore and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, I am now really intrigued by this game. And the designer was there, and I said, can we demo this game? And they said, we've got a game, but it's booked up. That's going to be playing at 9:00. But if you want, I can demo it for you right now when the hall closes at 6. And we had dinner plans, so I had to turn them down, and I was so bummed out because I really wanted to play this game. So much so that I actually went there and sat there at 9:00 to wait and see if maybe there was a no-show so I'd be able to play. It didn't happen, though. So I sat there and watched while he taught the game and got a really good overview of it. And it looked great. There are some which way aspects. You're going out, you're encountering different characters, and you are taking part in 2 different jousts, one based on faith, one based on honor. And once you get to you're putting your little shields into these 2 tracks either side of the board for the joust. Once that gets to the top, you have a joust where everyone at the table is going to joust off against each other based on how many of their shields are in the track. There's marine things that are happening, like naval things that are happening that can only happen at sea. There's big quests, there's little quests, there's holy relics and stuff. Like there's just a wild sandbox amount of stuff going on while you're playing a strategic game. And I just thought it looked so neat, and I so want to play it. And it's on Kickstarter right now.
GameFound.
GameFound.
Whatever. We're gonna name all of the different crowdfunding platforms.
Crowdfunding right now.
It's interesting,
and I will probably talk about some of my thoughts on that in the after show.
It's interesting. The game designer, Brian Saliba, is actually RPG designer. Like he designed Monty Python's co-curricular medieval reenactment program.
Yes.
He's an Emmy award-winning RPG designer who's designed this game, which is interesting.
This is what broke my heart. I came and watched these people that were playing this game. They had paid to be there. It was a ticketed event. They had paid to be there to play with the designer. And he's like, do you just want to play the game mechanically, or do you want flavor text? And everyone at the table is like, we just want to learn the mechanics. And I was like, but this game oozes flavor text. It has story. Why are you not reading the cards? You're killing me right now.
Yeah.
Earlier we mentioned meeting up with Victor and his family for dinner. We did get together and play some card games after. We broke out Crabs in a Bucket. So I was one of those, got the review copy at Origins and played it at Origins. I kind of enjoy that we did that. Went over pretty well. Very, very ridiculous, kind of over the top game it's very chaotic. Little too chaotic for my taste, but like I said, Deanna enjoyed it. And I think Victor and his family liked it. And then we cracked open a copy of the Deadlies that we had gotten from Smirk and Dagger to replace our badly damaged copy because it gets played so much. That was good enough, and Victor's in our chat room right now. It's already confirmed they went and bought a copy the next day. So the Deadlies is still, I hate selling it to folks because you can't get it anymore, but like the best chaotic light party game hand shedding card game out there. One of the interesting things we did is we wandered over to the Unpub area where we happened to run into Scott Brady, designer of Boop, and many other things at this point, Hues and Cues, sitting there playing this game that I had to walk over and look, because there was a bunch of like wooden blocks and things on a table, all setting up like what looked like American Gladiators, like an obstacle course. You know, is it American Gladiators where they have to shoot the thing at the end? Or am I thinking of the wrong game?
Yeah.
But yeah, the end of American Gladiators, right? When you got to hit the target at the end, it kind of looks like that. And when I walk over, I see them moving these things and then placing meeple behind things. And then this other guy leans at the end of the table and is peeking through a keyhole, trying to see stuff. And it was some kind of hide and seek game. And I'm like, this looks fascinating. I took a bunch of pictures, and then you had found out that they like just designed that there.
Yeah, I don't know. It basically, the gist that I got was that they were going to do something with the window. Scott suggested the keyhole, and there was just a bunch of game designers playing around and having fun.
I gotta say, I want the hide and seek game. Because like guys like, oh wait, I see a red meeple because it's reflecting off the white cube that's behind it. And it was, you had to ask them to move things, and then if your meeple was exposed, it was awesome to see.
It reminds me a little bit of that the lantern game, right? Where you're hiding from hiding behind trees
from the light. Yes.
I'm going to segue off to one of the after hours events we were at. I ended up playing a very prototype game, but what was interesting to me was it's just when you play prototypes with game designers, it is a different level where they're like, well, have you tried taking out 6 of the cards, because then that will change the averages like this, and then people will have this experience, and you do this, and and I'm just like, can I take notes? Not like I'm going to go home and make this game, but like I feel like I'm getting a university course on game design right now. This is fascinating.
The other thing too is game designers are so good at just like playing the game and having a good time. Because like you're playing this game with these folks, and you're like, I'm like, man, this is kind of bad, but I'm having fun. And then you're playing, and then they finish, and then they get into like, okay, do you want feedback? Are you open to negative feedback? All right, here's why your game sucks. I'm just like, whoa, okay, where'd that come from? Because it looked like you're having fun till that point.
So the Unpub area is the hidden gem.
Yes, Unpub's really cool. So one of the things I wanted to look into, because I like we host a proto spiel style event in Windsor, and we confirmed we were allowed to use the name Proto Spiel. So I sat down with someone who was there.
We use Proto Win.
We use Proto Win, but we reached out to Proto Spiel to ask if we could use the Proto, whatever you want to call it, prefix. So we went to Unpub, and I said, what do I have to do to get Unpub in Windsor? Like how do I make my event an Unpub event? Well, I got to hear all about their thing, and it ends up Unpub only does conventions. That's part of what they do, and they provide. It's a catered experience. Like you can't have an Unpub without one of the Unpub judges present. So it's not something that ever come to Windsor, but we just had a really good conversation. And all I can say is if you are at a convention, go check out the Unpub area. It's a lot more structured than you would think. It's not just a bunch of people goofing around. There's designated time slots, and it's a great way to show off your games. And I'm disappointed Roger Dodger Games isn't in the chat tonight, because I know that's why he went to Origins this year, was to go to the Unpub area and show off his games.
We went by the Bezier booth, and we took a bunch of their games home to review. Mo was excited because he had forgotten that there's an expansion for Xylotar. Yes, but a small thing that geeked me out is that they made zombie princess earrings, and they are made from the prototype pieces of the game. So they took their prototype pieces and reused them by turning them into earrings. And I'll throw pictures up on the.
Yeah, you have pictures of that.
I took some photos of them. I just thought it was cool.
So Sunday we had kind of a special thing going on with Outset Media, where we got into the hall early to play a game that they couldn't show off in public because the final signatures hadn't been signed, that they were going to localize this game. And the game is called Whacktown. It's going to be coming out later this year, and it's going to coincide with the launch of a new Grand Theft Auto game. So this is basically a Grand Theft Auto themed game that has a look of that cartoony cover of the box.
So yeah, they had said, oh, it's Grand Theft Auto with the serial numbers filed off, whatever. And I was not expecting to walk in and see the cell shaded graphics sort of look.
Yeah, right.
It really captured graphically that you're looking at a Grand Theft Auto style game.
Yeah, and it was ridiculous because there was this frame of actions where only 6 were standard and the rest were tiles you could mix up. And like the stack had to be this tall. It was ridiculous, the amount of variety in this game. So this was a highly competitive, combative worker placement game, where you're moving your gang symbol around to different areas of the board and trying to collect resources, but all with the goal of wiping out the other players' gangs. And basically, like, it felt kind of like a dungeon battler, because you were going around collecting armor to protect yourself. You were healing. You were adding gang members to your gang. You had to do influence. You had to raise your influence to be able to move to certain spots.
Drive-by shootings.
But then you're also doing drive-by shootings and starting rumbles where you're damaging all the players based on the size of your gangs. And it was, you could win. The main way to win would be last man standing. But you could also win by having the best rep, like getting to the top of this rep track. It was light, beer and pretzels, dice chucking, kind of chaotic fun. Had some really fun mechanics resolving around, you could set a bomb, but then the bomb would be armed on your turn. It would have to go around, or sorry, you would set the bomb. It would go around the table, it would be armed, and if it got around to you again, it would go off and like do tons of damage to everyone else. So that had that whole chase the halo and the deadlies feel.
There was a crime scene, and you would take this crime scene frame and pick it up and put it on different parts of the map. Well, that area is being patrolled by the police, so you're protected if you're in there. You can't get shot up if you're at the crime scene.
And no one else could go into the crime scene, but if you were already in it, you were fine. It was really solid. Like, it's not a theme that speaks to me at all. I gotta say, like, game based on gang warfare to me does not sound appealing.
And I haven't played Grand Theft Auto in a decade,
it's been a while.
Right?
But I'm like, you know what? If you're going for that Grand Theft Auto feel, it really nailed it. It was nice and abstract. They did some really smart stuff with dice. So most of the worker placement spots just had you roll a die and collect resources based on what you rolled. Well, what they did is the spot you store the dice showed all 6 of the sides. So you always knew what was on the dice, and it was right there on the game board. So
it was
one
nice
of those
and big, and even my crummy eyes, everything was like graphically easy to know what was going on. I loved it.
And then they did this thing where you had a track that showed what you had, but there were resources. So if you had money could replace influence. And then like armor in addition to your health. And well, they did it on this 2-layer board with a sliding track. So it automatically did the math for you. So you would just like line your money up past your influence and be like, oh, I can move to a spot 8. And then you would take it off. It was just really well done for managing resources.
I don't know if you guys are getting that across without seeing it physically, but it was super clever.
So yeah, look forward to Whacktown from our friends at Outset Media Games. I think it's going to be a hit.
Hopefully it actually comes out before GTA 6 ever drops.
I don't know. It's supposed to coincide somewhere. I hope we're not spoiling anything by mentioning GTA 6.
GTA 6 has been something that has been talked about for decades. It's long-range joke. It's a meme.
Yeah. Maybe we just let slip that it's actually coming. I don't know.
Yeah,
we weren't told anything about talking about GTA.
They said it was coming, and then they've moved it 3 times since they've announced it. So hopefully
it works out for Outset. So one of the things I didn't expect to play, if you read our newsletter, I kind of hinted at this, is I played a trading card game, a collectible trading card game, mainly because it appealed to Gwendolyn. Oshi Push. This is a game about anime VTubers where you're competing over various platforms like Facebook with the numbers filed off or TikTok with the numbers filed off, launching content on those platforms in a race to be the first with 1 million followers. This reminded me of Sorcerer from Wise Wizard Games, which I really like, because what it was, each round was basically a 3-lane line battler where your cards representing content stayed in play, because once you put it on the internet, it doesn't go away, which I thought was cute tie-in to the theme, where you're also going to then move your influencer to different spots to set up powers, and you could change your persona, you could change your look, you could level up, you had all kinds of different content cards, you had the equivalent of enchantments. Sorry, I'm still always every TTG is going to be compared to Magic. For me, I can't help it. We played starter decks that were really balanced. I can totally see just picking up 2 starter decks and playing the game like that. But the real draw of the game apparently is the fact you can deck build. So you can customize the content in your deck and your upgrades, and
it's a CCG.
Even the venues. So you can concert, because like Sorcerer, the venues come from your deck. So like the start player gets to put up 1, the other player puts up 2. And it's all about customizing your deck and being able to, there's meta, and when new characters are released, the meta changes and certain venues become bigger. And that doesn't interest me at all. I had a good time playing with the 2 starter decks. Like it was a very solid 2-player dueling card game with a theme that totally disinterests me.
And we don't usually touch collectible card games. And yes, it's being asked in the chat. This is a collectible card game.
Yes, this is a collectible card game. So we did take home 2 starter packs. And this is the second thing, we teased this earlier, that Gwen will be reviewing for us. Gwen wanted to be able to play it with her friend group, and is really excited about this theme because she watches a lot of YouTube. So it was right in her market, and she likes the collectible aspects. She collects Pokemon cards but doesn't play the game, where she's like, unlike Pokemon, I want to play this. So that was her endorsement of it so far. We brought home 2 starter decks as review copies, and it ends up there were boosters in them. And she got to learn the immediate disappointment of getting cards for a different character's deck.
Yeah. She's like, what? I don't understand. And I'm like, yes, welcome to CCGs,
welcome to
child.
CCGs. She's like, but I have an upgrade for a character I don't have. I'm like, yep.
I wasn't there when you guys demoed this, but it sounds like a solid game. And Gwen's supposed to teach it to me, and I'm supposed to sit down and play it with her.
Do you want to talk about this one? Because I think you got a better overview than I did. No? Okay. Our regret of the con.
For some reason, I'm losing my voice.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on over here.
Talking too much tonight. Lucha 345. This is our regret. This is the game we should have talked to about helping them promote. We should have went back to the booth before we left on Sunday, or just bought a copy because it seemed really cool.
It's not like they turned us down.
It's not like they turned us down. We messed up.
We did not ask them for a review copy, and we should have.
This is an abstract strategy game, a chess-like, if you will, or checkers-like. That's themed on luchador wrestling, where you are moving what look like poker chips. They're acrylic and they're see-through on a board. You can move any number of empty spaces. When you land on someone, you capture them. And there was this cool mechanic where you flip it over then, and the numbers on them mattered. And it was all about having to get a stack of 5. So 3, 4, 5. So when you stack 2, it flips. But then when you flip, it's now like the opponent's piece.
I think it was you could have a 3 stack, a 4 stack, and a 5 stack on the board.
Yeah. I say again, we got a quick demo of this, and it was just one of those games where they described it. It looked really cool. It looked really interesting. It had a small grid, and it just had that appeal to me in the way the Duke does. Just kind of looked like our kind of game. And then it had the luchador theme and asymmetric powers. So you would have your team of luchadors, and they all did, I don't even know what. It just looked really cool. And it was like one of those, man, we should have went back and like tried to play a game or got a bigger demo.
It was near the end of the convention, and I was like, no, we're not taking any more games. We're done.
Yes.
And then I regretted that we didn't go.
Yeah, we should have grabbed that one. It looked really cool. So Lucha 345.
Yeah, this one is interesting to me. So Wales Entertainment is the publisher, an LA publishing company, but they have a series of games, and this is one of them, based on the theory of multiple intelligences. And this one is the spatial awareness intelligence development game. And it's an interesting concept. It's the Gardner theory of multiple intelligences, if you want to look it up. And he's got 9 different possible intelligences that humans have. And this is specifically encouraging the development of spatial awareness intelligence. In what is a cool game. It's just this sort of odd, it has nothing really to do with the game, but it's something that they're sort of marketing and developing on the side as an additional angle to these games. And it's an interesting one.
All right, last full game, not the last one we're going to talk about, but last full game of the con was Cyberpunk Legends, a cooperative adventure game from a new company, Night Crew Games. Now, when I say adventure card game, that puts something in my head. I think Aventuria. I think Warhammer, the adventure card game. I think Pathfinder, the adventure card game. There was a Shadowrun Crossfire. There's a certain style of game where you expect cards with lots of text on them, played in combos with the other players and doing interesting things with your deck. That is not this at all. This is a game using traditional poker-style card game rules, where as a team, you are trying to make poker hands. Every encounter, you're working together to make a certain type of poker hand to overcome some type of obstacle. The first obstacle we faced, to be able to overcome the obstacle, we had to play at least a single pair.
I got to say, I was like poker hands. I'm not really excited about this. And Shades of the Gang, which I did not enjoy. Cooperative poker. And I'm like, nope.
I felt exactly the same. Now, what makes this work? The cards are not a standard deck of cards. Some cards have multiple numbers. Some cards have multiple suits. Some cards have both. Some cards also have special abilities. Only certain cards do damage. In addition, it's asymmetric. Every character has a unique deck, and each deck has a different mix of suits and numbers. So, for example, the solo has more damage cards that do damage and more might cards, which is one of the 4 suits in the game. So you're sitting there going, how do I make a run? Because you're playing 4 players and I need to make a full house. How do I do that when we're only playing 4 cards? Well, no, you played 5 cards. The lead player played 1 card and then plays the 5th card. And we're like, but how do you get 6 pairs or whatever? Well, it's because you can play multiples of the same number. And of course, there's limited communication rules, but you could be like, I can do the pairs on my own.
And the cards actually have multiple symbols on them so they can count for more than one thing.
Exactly. So each individual card could be part of a full house, part of a flush, and part of a 3 of a kind. It was actually really brilliant. Like, I had no clue what I was going to think of this. As soon as they said poker hands, I was like, what the heck are you doing? It's Cyberpunk. Why are we using poker hands?
And we're playing through a storyline, and then we'd encounter a new obstacle, and the obstacles were all very different. So the hand requirements were all very different.
And it was cool because it wasn't all combat. We actually got to a point, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I'm going to say it anyway, but we got information while we were going. And then we're presented a point in the deck where it said, show up 3 cards, and we were presented a scene at a bar and asked, who do you want to talk to? And you had to use the information we had gained to find the right contact. And I just thought that was really brilliant.
There were choices. There were which way aspects. It wasn't all just combat. It was super interesting and very, very thematically cyberpunk.
Yes, if you are a fan of R. Telsorian Cyberpunk, and I have been a fanboy for years, it is a prequel to Cyberpunk 2013. This is set in 2012. You have the main characters, your Johnny Silverhands and Morgan Blackhand, and like they exist in this. And you get to learn some of the history of why Night City is the way it is in 2013. I was actually blown away by this.
I cannot properly explain how excited I am about this game. I want to play it so bad.
This game is really interesting to me because the marketing on it is I feel, I don't want to say misleading, but confusing, because on the Board Game Geek page, it says you are going to try and create a cooperative poker hand with all kinds of twists. But if you actually go to the Cyberpunk Legends page on Night Crew Games, you're seeing 120 player cards, 179 scenario cards, D10s, D20s, character cards, trauma team cards. You do not, nothing about this game, except for that one little sentence on the Board Game Geek page, says how the game is played based on what you've described, which makes sense. I get it. Like, I understand what they've gone with and why it's built out the way it is. But without hearing your description, I would buy this game and have a completely different idea of what I was picking up.
Exactly. Both of these things are true. It is this cooperative poker game, and it is also a huge story-driven game where you're playing through a campaign where you can make choices, and you could go back and play it again because you could make different choices.
Sure.
But it is a finite campaign that you're playing through.
So I hadn't put it together before, but I'm realizing it now. It's the Crew meets Cyberpunk in a way. Like with funkier cards, but it's got that
much more story-driven.
Yes, but it's that Crew card play. Like you're not taking tricks though. It's poker hands. It's the Crew as if it was poker. And super cyberpunk thematic.
Co-op Balatro.
Yeah, really. No, Balatro is a great example of this. And like it was neat because like your best cards, like the damage cards usually weren't good at succeeding at the tricks. So you'd have to be like, can you guys handle it? I'll do the damage. And like the conversations we had were great.
And then
the dice actually are all just there to track things.
Yeah.
So your group starts with 20 health, and it's going to be a spin down D20 in the finish. And they managed to put sparkly crystals in it. When you turn the die upside down, it looks like the Matrix thing. Thought that was cute. I have a video of that. I think I posted on the Discord. And then the other D10 is the adversary's health. So the dice aren't rolled. They're just there to track things instead of counters.
And your characters level up, aka
you get new cards in your deck.
Yeah.
You refine your deck. You can take cards out. Yeah, the comparison to Blatro is actually really good. All right, another game caught my eye. This is the very end of the con. I forget where I was going to meet you guys, and I had a bit of time to kill, and I stopped by to check out this game, and it was called Moytura, Moytura. It was from Bitewing Games. This is a 2-player only area control units on a map game. That usually doesn't work, and that was the goal of this game, was to create a 2-player area control game that worked. Now, one of the keys to that is the players can never attack each other. The way it actually works is, in addition to the 2 players factions on this fantasy map, there are 3 different types of monsters that all act in different ways. Now, in addition to using your actions to move your factions around to battle the monsters, there are gods that you can pray to, and this works Cyclades style. When you pray to a god, you influence one of the monster races. Now, you can use the monsters to attack the other players. But then it's got the Cyclades thing that once you pray to that god, they drop to the bottom and they're less powerful and they slide up. It was really well done. Really neat way to do area control, and I really want to play this with Deanna.
I was not there when you looked
you
at
weren't
this
here
one.
when I saw this one.
It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I'm like, they managed to do some really cool stuff to make 2-player area majority folk on a map work. Components look great, the different races were cool, and it seemed very expandable because you could just swap out the gods. And not only that, like, you just swap out what the monsters' races are. Like, there's snake people now, and they slowly spread. There's other people that were attacked from the seas, and all you do is swap out those cards, and you'd have a totally different game. Seemed very expandable.
If we ever get and review this, we are going to have to do an entire phonetically written review because it's all old Irish names of gods and monsters.
Okay.
And
I didn't catch that was
like,
Irish Isles.
Even Moytura is an anglicization of the original Irish.
Okay.
It's actually
Irish setting. I missed that. That's about it. That pretty much covers it. We did. It was kind of nice because it used to always be like Sunday, no one was left. Well, this Sunday we ran into a bunch of folks at the Big Bar on 2, including the people we just did an escape room with. That was kind of weird because we did the escape room. We all split up, and then they were back at the Big Bar on 2, which a bunch of other designers we met, more Eamon Anderson interactions. We played some playtesting games, and like playtesting as in like written on scraps of paper card games. And that's how we finished off the con, was like having drinks with some folks that we had interacted with over the week. So it was a nice like denouement to the end of the con. Overall,
it was just a chill con.
Yeah, it was just like the most relaxed Origins we've been to since it's been more work. Like it just felt like we were attending as fans of board games, which was really cool vibe this year. It was quite different. It was definitely, there were some things that didn't go as well as they'd hoped, but it was a rebuilding year, and I'm hoping it'll be even better next year.
I will say
I'm very excited to go back. Origins has always been one of my favorite cons, and it still stands. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, like, yeah, okay, maybe not all the big game name publishers are there, but if they were, maybe I wouldn't have found like Flock Together or Primordial Secrets. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I got to discover because the smaller publishers were more prevalent.
All right. Well, if you liked our coverage, if you want to hear more about some of our games, some about the food they eat, the beer they drank, the places we've been, the experiences we had at the con, I really recommend you hop over to discord.tabletopbellhop.com, where there's a lot more discussion. There's all sorts of photos, and we're happy to interact, engage for ages and ages, and in discourse at great lengths about some of the topics that we may have only skimmed by here. So do feel free to drop by again, discord.tabletopbellhop.com. And that was the double bell.
Oh, that means our shift's coming to an end and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors, but stick around and we'll chat for a bit after the show.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank some of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons, all of whom are awesome. Gregory F. Thank you, Gregory.
Matt Dawson. Thank you, Matt.
Diane Tuzano. Thanks, Ma.
Roger Malosh. Sorry you weren't here tonight. We would love to hear your talk about the Unpub.
Kat and Tori. Thank you.
Jeff and Sheila Seuss. Jeff, we're going to have to get together so you can try Tricurion.
Tricurus.
Tricurion. Wow. Totally different game about magic tricks. Tricurus. It's right above my shoulder. Tricurus.
Well, we've hit the end of this podcast episode, and you can see we've already run out of gas. You can always find us at tabletopbellhop.com. Yeah. Be sure to subscribe and pay attention to our content wherever you might be. And hey, give us a thumbs up or a review if you get a chance.
That's all for us for tonight.
Yeah, we're on that race. We're the VTubers on a race for 1 million subscribers. I don't think we're very good at Oshi Plus, the LARP, but hey, one thing that would help, though, is if you enjoyed this, tell someone else. Let one of your friends know. Tell a fellow gamer. Tell your FLGS. They're like, hey, have you checked out this show? They'll let you know what you should carry in your store. That's all for us tonight.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you. And game on.